The serpent said to the woman, "You will not die. God knows that the day you eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, your eyes will be opened, and you shall be as God, knowing good and evil."
The consequences were catastrophic, not only for the whole of humanity, but for the entire creation.
my brethren, be strong in the Most High, and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of Yah, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to stand and withstand in the evil day. And having done all to stand, stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, take the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of the Most High Yah.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 1, 0.
Set apart family, the Most High Yah. Welcome to another Sword of the Spirit audio broadcast teaching. We are your hosts, the servants of Yah, and we want to greet you all in the name of our Master, Yahushua HaMashiach. We are his inheritance, and although many of us are poor, we are rich in Yah's truth. Then let us highly esteem our Abba Father Yah on this set apart day. But allow us to let's worship him and honor him according to our walk and not our talk. Many people talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. So we want to say Shabbat Shalom to all who walk the walk. So with that being said, bring in my co-host, Shabbat Shalom, sis.
Shabbat Shalom, sis. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. I am doing pretty good. Just enjoying this day. Satan was a little busy this morning. Had a little trouble trying to upload some things, but y'all worked that out, so I'm not complaining. And we're here another Sabbath to share his truth, so y'all will.
Yes.
How about yourself?
Well, I am glad to be able to see his Shabbat and be able to come before all our listeners, and I'm just thankful that, I had a migraine for 4 days, so that went away. So praise be to the Most High Yah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah, I didn't worry you on that one, sis.
Okay. We got to start lifting each other up. Remember what we said?
Yes, we do.
Well, let's get right into today's show because we have a lot for you today. We don't have a State of the Body panel discussion for the next 3 weeks. We're going to be focusing, and actually today our 91st audio teaching kicks off the beginning and part one of what you want to call the so-called Black History series. Well, we're calling it The Bible is Our History, and we will be doing a 3-part series over the next 3 Sabbaths, today being the first. Part one lesson today is entitled The Covenant. So, even though we know that most of the world recognizes the covenants, the promises, and the blessings, most of the world has no problem in honoring the fact and even recognizing or acknowledging the fact that these covenant promises and blessings, they were promised to Israel and Israel alone. But very few know who these people are and how they came to be. How did they become to be the covenant people of the Most High Yah? And so for us to understand one of the greatest love stories known to mankind, we got to know the difference between a covenant and a contract, and we're going to talk about that today. We also must know the difference between the old and the new covenant, what many might call it. We like to refer to it as the original and the renewed covenant because they're not separate. And in addition to identifying who these people are today, we need to know how the Most High views his covenant. How does he view the covenant that he entered into with Israel, these chosen people? And has he forsaken that covenant and or those specific nation of people that he entered into this oath with. So to be able to understand the covenant, the terms and conditions, and what the Torah or the law states about making an oath and a vow, we got to dig deep today. So today is a day where you're definitely going to need your notepads, your Bible, and your pens, and be ready to have patience today and take notes. And that's the reason why we don't have a State of the Body panel discussion today, because we're going to take you through an in-depth journey, excuse me, of this covenant. We're going to dissect it bit by bit, peeps by peep. We're going to talk about how it began, and eventually, by the end of this 3-part series, how and with who this covenant will end, and who it will end with. There's a lot of speculations, a lot of theories, but we're here today and over the next 3 weeks to clear all of that up. And we pray, Yah willing, that we will be able to do that. So, Prina, before we get into today's 91st teaching, I want to just do a quick recap of last Shabbat's audio teaching. It was entitled The Spiritual Illness, Blindness, and Dysfunction of the Black Church. And so we talked about the what I would like to call an epidemic of dysfunction that goes on in the Black church, and how spiritual blindness and deception and falsehood is not only celebrated, but it's taught, it's endorsed, and we brought a lot of truth to the forefront. We just picked the church a piece, bit by bit, and exposed a lot of the things that have been going on for a long time. A lot of people, who may still be in the Christian church as a whole, they may be offended by it, but a lot of the things that they're going to hear, they know is true, and we know that it's true because we were in it. Yeah. So we're not speaking from someone who's on the outside and doesn't know. A lot of the things that go on in the Christian churches is unscriptural. They quote and say things that Paul never said, that our Messiah never said, that Yah never said. There's a lot of doctrine. The majority of the doctrine is either watered down, compromised, or half teachings. And so if you got half of the truth, then it's still a lie, because he says no lie is of the truth. So we really listened to a few audio clips, but we really dissected the spiritual illness and blindness and the dysfunction that goes on in the Black church, and no one grieves or says anything about what's going on. So if you missed our last week 90 of audio broadcast teaching, please check it out. So just something quick I wanted to mention before we get into today's 91st teaching. I saw an article today, and I came across some information where it basically said that Donald Trump signed another executive order giving police more authority than they had before. So what comes in your mind when you hear that?
Martial law, New World Order.
Mhm. Yeah, because we already know what our people went through over the past couple of years, as it pertains to the police officers and the way that they handle. So it's kind of like they're going to have more authority. Yes. And so I didn't have a lot of time to read everything, but we just need to be in prayer. And at the end of the day, Yah is still in control. His will is being done. And there's some other things I would like to say about this, but maybe I will save it for next week. Maybe we can just do a little bit more research about this.
Okay.
Executive order and the exact stipulations, because I didn't want to turn it into a State of the Body panel discussion. So I'm going to go ahead and get into, if you had anything else that you would like to add before I get into today's 91st show.
It's just a lot of these things is going to happen too, Shaitan, because, we're nearing the end of our 400-year curse. And, that's in light of what is going on with Trump and everything. So I don't want to get, like you said, into it. So I'm going to let you get into it because I'm excited. I'm excited for this lesson.
I'm sure this is probably something you've heard before.
Well, I heard it, but you always put some spice in it. You always come in and bring some new information, and so I am excited today. Okay, I got my notepad and my pen too.
Well, we'll check back in. At the end of the show, maybe I think midway, we'll kind of dissect some of the information that's been presented. Midway, which is something that I normally don't do, but today's show was a little different. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So, today is, as I said, beginning the first part, or shall I say part 1 of our 3-part series, The Bible is Our History. And today's part 1 audio teaching is entitled The Covenant. So, in light of the first part series being titled The Covenant, I think that it's only right that we go right into the definition of what a covenant is. And so, according to Strong Hebrews 1285, a covenant is a compact, okay? And it also gives us another definition of confederate or confederacy. And so when I looked up the definition for confederate, it says to be unionized. When you unionize with someone or you come together and you become a union, as in a husband and a wife becoming a union, you become one. And we know that it is the Father's will that we become one with Him and the Son. And so when I looked up the definition for covenant in thesaurus.com, covenant also gave me the same definition as Strong Hebrews 1285. It said that a covenant was a compact. And I'm like, okay, wow, this is the same thing, that I saw in Strong Hebrews. It also said that a covenant is a pact, an oath, a promise. And a promise is someone's word that something will be done. When you promise someone something, that is your word that whatever it is that you have said will be done. It also said that a covenant is an agreement, a commitment, a deal. And then it had a couple of interesting definitions for covenant, but it said stipulation. And we know that a stipulation is a condition or the terms of a specific agreement. And so when we think about stipulations, I like to go back and forth between just the everyday natural to help you to understand with examples that which is being spoken of in the scriptures so that it can connect. And so when you think about the stipulations or the terms and agreement, let's think about, for example, if you have a covenant or agreement or a compact with Sprint, for example. I've had one with them before. You enter into an agreement, and then there are stipulations or conditions within that specific agreement. For example, when I had Sprint before, one of the stipulations or conditions of that agreement was if you terminate this deal prior to, I think it was 2 years, then you would have to pay $400. And so at the time when I entered into this deal, you sign an agreement, and then I also gave them my credit card information. So lo and behold, a year and a half down the line, I'm not thinking about those stipulations. I'm not thinking about the conditions, that I agree to. in the beginning, oftentimes, like many of us, when we enter into covenant relationships, we enter into agreements or we commit to do something long, years back, and then we think because so much time has gone by that we don't have to adhere to that which we spoke out of our mouth. But what I want to show you today is that when we make commitments and oath, and those of you who come into the truth, Yah takes an oath, a promise, very seriously. And he does not break oaths and promises. And especially if you make an oath or a promise to Yah, you best believe that you better keep it and honor it. There is no such thing as making an oath or a covenant with Yah and breaking it. There's no such thing. That which you have said, you must do. And so that was one of the definitions for covenant, was stipulations, okay? And then the next two, which I found very surprising for covenant, it had engagement and espousal, or to be espoused. So those of you who are in the truth, you know that when you're engaged or you're espoused, that is also another word for your promise. Because if a man gets down on one knee and he asks you to marry him and you say yes, then that is your promise, or, that you're going to marry this man. When you say, yes, I'll marry you, that's your promise. And something else that was in here, Prina, was marriage. So marriage was also another definition, and covenant. And so, Prina, we know that in the Hebrew that and being engaged or espoused is the same thing as marriage in the eyes of the Most High. We're not talking about in the eyes of the world. Do you remember that, Prina, when we had the teaching from before, that in that, a lot of people don't know that when you're engaged, and if, let's say, a lot of times they'll go and they'll have the, what they call the engagement party. What do they have, those parties? Where bachelor and bachelorette
parties, yes.
Yeah, those are against Torah. You're not supposed to have bachelor and bachelorette parties. It's a sin to engage in it, because many people think, oh, well, I'm not married. Yes. In the eyes of the Most High, and if you know the word, he considers you married. He called Joseph and Mary husband and wife prior to them being married.
Yeah.
So he considers marriage the same thing as being engaged or espoused. There is no difference. Why? Because today, I'm really breaking it down today. I don't want to just say, well, this is a covenant and that's a contract and this is what they made and then I'm out. Today, I want you to really understand what a covenant really is. And one of the things that I said in the show's description is how I was going to show you how Yah views a covenant. He doesn't view a covenant the way that we view a covenant, because we make promises all day.
Yes,
we'll
we do.
stand up and get married and say our love promise to cherish and obey you, and then before you even get down the aisle, they looking at somebody. So that's not how Yah views it. He takes it very serious. So let's go to the Torah to see. Now that we know what a covenant is, but let me quickly, a covenant and a contract, they're not the same. A covenant in the eyes of the Most High is forever. And I'm going to show you. We're going to do this, and after I read what the Torah says about a covenant, then I'm going to tell you what a contract is and to compare the difference between the two. And then we're going to go right into the beginning of how this covenant came to be with the chosen people that we know as Israel today. Okay, so let's go to Numbers chapter 30, and we're going to read verse 2. Numbers 30 and 2. Numbers 30 and 2 says, if a man vows a vow to the Most High or swears an oath to bind himself by a pledge, because a covenant is the same thing as a promise. It's a pledge. It's a deal. It's an agreement. It's the same thing. When you pledge to do something, that's your promise. Okay? So Yah says in Numbers 30:2, if a man vows a vow, because a vow is an oath, that's a promise, or swears an oath to bind himself by a pledge, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. So this is something that people really need to understand, because when we, especially those who are in the Most High, and those of you who say that you love Yah and that you're in the truth, and we know that the greatest command is to love the Most High with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. And then the second is like the first, to love your neighbor as yourself. So he cares about how you treat your brother. Many people think that, oh, I love Yah with all my heart, mind, and soul, and I can treat my brother any kind of way, and then I'm still getting into the kingdom. But Yah says, no. You not only have to honor me first, because we know that we put him first, but then you have to honor and respect and treat your brother the same way. So hence the saying, treat others the way you want to be treated. Where you think they got that from? They got that from the scriptures. And so Yah cares about how you treat your brother, because this is a command. What I'm reading now is Torah. I'm not reading, oh, well, this is my opinion, and I think that you should do this. I just got finished reading it. I'm going to read another one, because we know that everything must be established by at least 2 to 3 witnesses. So I'm going to read the 2 witnesses. I just read Numbers 30:2. He says, you shall not break your word. He says, you shall do according to all that proceeds out of your mouth. So whatever it is that you promise a person, whatever it is you tell a person that you're going to do, you make an oath and a pledge and a vow and a commitment, you have to do that. And when you don't, you are in sin. You're in sin, and you're not treating your brother, or that's not loving your brother. That's actually hating your brother when you make a vow or promise and then you don't live up to it. Okay? And we know sometimes things happen, but when you make a vow and a promise and then you just leave it to the wayside, and then you never revisit it, you never go to that person, you never explain to them why this you did not fulfill or do all the things you said that you were going to do, and then when they bring it to your attention and you get upset, you're in the wrong. Because Torah says that whatever it was that you utter out of your mouth to do, he says you shall do according to all that proceeded out of your mouth. Let's read another precept, Deuteronomy chapter 23, and we're going to read verses 21 through 23. Deuteronomy 23, verses 21 through 23. It says, if you make a vow to the Most High, your power, you shall not delay fulfilling it, for the Most High, your power, will surely require it of you, and you will be guilty of sin. Are you listening to this, Prina? You know I'm going to be calling you in, so just be on standby by the button. Are you listening to this? He said, if you make a vow to the Most High, your power, you shall not delay fulfilling it. So be very careful when you pray and you pray to Yah and you promise Yah that you're going to do something. Be very careful, because whatever it is you utter out of your mouth that you're going to do, he says you can't delay in not fulfilling it. And see, we're getting ready. Remember Deuteronomy 23, and Prina, I might need you to just remember that, Deuteronomy 23 and 21, if I need to go back and refer to this, because this is going to be very pivotal in us understanding why these chosen people are in the condition that they're in today. Because Yah said, if you make a vow, that's the same thing as an oath, a promise, that's a compact, that's a commitment, okay? Whatever, he says, if you vow to the Most High, your power, he says, you shall not delay in fulfilling it. For the Most High, your power will surely require it of you. Whatever you said you was going to do when you promised him, he's going to expect that you do it. He says, and you will be guilty of sin. So if you don't do it, he says you're guilty of sin. You're guilty of sin. But if you refrain from vowing, meaning you don't vow, you don't make a promise, he says you will not be guilty of sin. So you shall be careful. This is, listen to this part here. This is for everyone listening, because we're quick to say, oh, I promise you. And this is even for me to think before I even say this. You know what I'm saying, Prina? Before I say it, just be like, well, let me think about it, or I get back. This is helping me to remember this, because I don't want to be in sin, because sometimes we think those little things, those subtle things, you overlook them, and then over time you think, oh, there's nothing wrong with this, and next thing you know, you standing before the judge, and he's bringing this to your remembrance. You know, we see if it's in Torah, he means it. It's serious if it's a law. Yeah. Okay? Y'all saying that you will be held guilty of sin. So this is the reason why he continues. It says, so you shall be careful to do what has passed your lips, whatever has come out of your mouth to do. He doesn't care what it is. He says, for you have what? Voluntarily vowed the vow to the Most High. He said, I didn't come to you and put no gun to your head and make you say this. This was you what? Opening up your lips and saying something. He says, you volunteered to vow to the Most High your power, what you have promised, what? With your mouth. Please remember this, Prina, because I want to go back to this. It's going to be a certain time. I know you probably already thinking and knowing where I'm going to go back when I get to this. But we have to, I don't want them to think that just brush over this covenant today. Our people need to know, before we get into who we are and all of that, I'm going to get into who the people are next week, but we need to have a thorough foundation and understanding of what a covenant is, dissect it, pull it apart, what are the stipulations, how did it become to be, what was said on both sides, and that's going to give you the understanding of what's truly going on right now with these people that he made a covenant with. So let's go to Ezekiel chapter 6 and 9. Okay? Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 6 and 9, and you have to bear with me today, because today I had so many scriptures that I was reading that I did not want to have all of these in my notes. I just said I'm going to write them down, bullet them, and then I'm going to go directly to the scriptures themselves. So let's go to Ezekiel chapter 6 and 9, and these are going to be some precepts about the everlasting covenant that Yah entered into with Israel. Okay? So Ezekiel chapter 6 verse 9 reads, and those who escape shall remember me from among the nations, where they will be made captive, because I was broken. Some of your Bibles may say I was crushed. And I really want us to understand. And I'm gonna make it sound as bad as I can, because Israel needs to feel bad. None remorse, none is grieved over the things that they've done. You need to know how you have hurt the Father. Look at what it's saying here in Prina and Ezekiel 6 and 9. It says, and those who escape shall remember me among the nations, where they will be made captive. Why? He says, because I was broken, or I was crushed by their whoring heart, which has turned away from me, and by their whoring eyes, which go after their idols. And they shall loathe against their faces for the evils which they have done in all their abominations. Okay, Prina, are you reading this?
Yes.
He said that he was crushed.
Yes.
Have you ever had someone that you was in love with?
Yes,
and
I have.
They crushed your heart. They broke it and crushed it into a million pieces. This is a love story. Yeah. We're taking you to this love story, but I need for you to truly understand this covenant. I need you to understand what took place, how it made our Father Yah feel what his Torah says about covenants, oaths, promises, vows, so that when we go through this journey, you can see that all of his judgments are righteous.
Yeah.
All of his judgments are righteous. He has the right to scatter us to the four corners of the earth, because we have been harmed. He said that we pretty much, y'all saying, you broke my heart.
Yeah.
That's when you enter into a covenant relationship or marriage with someone, and they agree to love you and you only, and to be faithful to you and you only, and they stand before you and say their vows and say, I'm only going to have eyes for you and love and cherish you. And then Kim down the street, all of a sudden, he looking at her. Then 2 days later, he looking at Anita. This is why Yahushua said that even if you look on another woman to lust after her in your heart, he says you have already committed adultery. Even if you look on another woman, you don't even have to physically get in bed with that woman. If you are looking on another woman, if you're watching pornos, looking at naked women on Facebook, looking at porno magazines, Playboy, it doesn't matter. Drink it, and this goes for the women too, because they're just as bad, if not worse, than the men, looking at Chippendales, all of that stuff. He said if you are even looking on another woman to lust after her, he says you've already committed adultery. Because what's in your heart is what you do. Your heart is the very core of who you are. This is why he says that you must love Yah with all your heart. Because when you love with all your heart, you're not going to do things that displease him, that grieves his set-apart spirit, that crush him and breaks his heart, as it is being spoken of in Ezekiel 6 and 9. He says that we broke his heart by whoring. And then he says, this goes back, Prina, to what the Yahushua said in the renewed covenant when he said that if you look on another woman to lust after her, you commit adultery. The same thing with he says that you crest them not only by whoring, but by your whoring eyes. You see this, Prina? It's saying the same thing.
Yes.
Your whoring eyes. Mm-hmm. Because you looking and entertaining something that you have no business looking at and entertaining. If it come on TV and it's naked women, half-dressed women, cut it off. Turn the TV. You don't have to look at it. But what he's saying is we broke his heart by going after other idols. This is the reason why we do not celebrate holidays and birthdays, because it honors other gods. We enter into a covenant relationship, a covenant marriage, and we had a vow and a promise, and we're going to go into that. Remember, Yah said, whatever you vow to him, you cannot break it. Whatever came out of your mouth, he said, you must do all that passed through your lips. So we're gonna visit that today. What came through Israel's lips that they didn't keep, as we all know. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in America right now. But we got to understand this. I'm going to beat this, and I'm going to hammer this home and put the twist on it, as Prina say, so that you can get a better understanding of something that you've already understood. Hopefully you can come away from this and you got another nugget to add to what you already have. Let's go to, and he's talking to Judah here in Ezekiel 6 and 9. He's talking to Judah, the southern kingdom. That's the so-called African American. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 16. And I want to read verses 8. And then we're going to read verses 32 and then 38. Ezekiel, because we're going to be jumping around today. Ezekiel chapter 16 and 8 reads, and I passed by you, and I looked on you. This is Yah talking to Israel. And behold, your time was the time of love. And I spread my skirt over you and covered your nakedness. And I swore to you and entered into a covenant with you, declares the Most High Yah, and you became mine. He's letting you know, I loved you in Ezekiel 16:8. I loved you. And when I saw you, even though you didn't even look all that hot, I put clothes on you. You didn't have anything. I dressed you up. I'm the one that clothed you and gave you pearls and rubies and all kinds of precious stones. I'm the one that did that. He said, I loved you and I covered your nakedness. Your nakedness in Hebrew is your shame. You were shameful. I did all of this. He says, and I swore to you, meaning I entered into a covenant with you, an oath, a promise that everything that I said I was going to do, I was going to do it. And we're going to find out that that's the reason right now, his covenant, and what I've already read to you with the two precepts of what a covenant is and what he has said about a covenant, whatever passed through your lips, whatever Yah spoke, as you're going to see, this is the reason why Israel has not been destroyed as an entire nation of people today. Because we're not here because we've been so great, because we haven't. We don't deserve it at all. All praises be to the Most High for having mercy and being a power that keeps covenant, that he is not a man that he should lie. But he said that I covered your nakedness. He said, I swore to you and I entered into a covenant with you. And then he says that we became his. Remember, when I read the definition for covenant, it also said espoused, engaged, and marriage. We became his. Go to verse 32, and then we're going to read verse 38. Verse 32. Likewise, the adulterous wife, instead of her husband, she takes strangers. So y'all saying right here, just like an adulterous wife, instead of you taking me, your husband, you want to go over there with Baal. You want to go with Tammuz and celebrate Christmas. You want to go with Estar and celebrate Easter. All the pagan gods and the holidays that honor and acknowledge and celebrate them. He says, you rather go with them, even though you entered into a covenant relationship with me, even though I gave you my first command, my first stipulation, my first condition, which was to love me with all your soul, heart, and mind, which was also you shall have no other powers or gods before me. You ignore all of that. Instead of taking your husband, the one that you entered into a covenant relationship with and agreed and promised to love me and me alone, you want all these other gods instead of your husband. Let's go down to verse 38. So he says, I will judge you with judgments of an adulteress and with shedders of blood. He says, I will give you blood of fury and jealousy. See, Yah says he's a jealous guy. He's not going to share you with anyone else. He's not going to. You can't esteem him. You can't have two masters. You're going to have to, he said you're going to either love one or hate the other. You can't be on both sides of the fence. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 20. Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 20. All right. Jeremiah 3 and 20 reads, surely as a wife treacherously departs from her lover, so you have dealt treacherously with me, O house of Israel, declares Yah. See, Yah continues to declare, to confirm and affirm and reaffirm over and over and over again who he entered into a covenant relationship with. And we haven't gotten there yet, but I'm laying the foundation. He's telling the past three scriptural verses, chapter verses that we've read, they've all been about Yah acknowledging the fact that he loved us, that we were married to him, that we entered into a covenant with him, but we were unfaithful, we were adulterous. He says again in Jeremiah 3 and 20, surely as a wife treacherously departs from her lover, so you have dealt treacherously with me, O house of Israel. See, we're supposed to love Yah and Yah alone. So we can't love Yah and love the Easter Bunny. We can't love Yah and love Christmas. But see, we don't understand how important Yah's covenant really is. And this is because people do not understand Torah. Let me read it again. Numbers 30:2. If a man vows a vow to Yah or swears an oath to bind himself by a pledge, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. Deuteronomy 23, verses 21 through 23. If you make a vow to the Most High, your power, you shall not delay in fulfilling it, for the Most High, your power, will surely require it of you, and you will be guilty of sin. But if you refrain from vowing, meaning if you don't vow or make a promise or an oath, he says you will not be guilty of sin. You shall be careful to do what has passed through your lips, for you have voluntarily vowed to the Most High, your power, what you have promised with your mouth. So Yah's not going to force us, he's saying. I'm not going to force you to enter into a covenant. I've asked you, and you agreed. So according to Torah, that if you enter into a covenant and you make a vow or promise to Yah, he says you can't delay in fulfilling it. Whatever you said you were going to do, you have to do it, or you are going to be guilty of sin. So we really going through and breaking down this covenant. And I want to now go into, now we've gone over what a covenant is. I have given you scriptural precepts to start this thing off, to lay this foundation before I go into it, to show you that Israel entered into an everlasting covenant, and Yah, he said that he loved us, but that we crushed him by our whoring that was going on in our hearts and the whoring of our eyes. You ever been with dated someone, Prina, or know of someone who dated someone, and you with them, and they every time a woman walk past, they looking. Have you ever?
Are they wandering eyes?
Yeah, that's what they call them, the wandering eye. Y'all say Israel got a wandering eye. Every holiday, everything that come up new. Oh, let me go see what they doing over here. Oh, they got a new. Let me go see what they doing over here. Oh, you gotta keep focused. You can't be no leafy Hebrew blowing with every wind of doctrine. Every time somebody got a new doctrine, you lending your ear to see what let me see what they talking about. You don't need to know what they talking about. They're pagans. So anything they're telling you is not going to edify and build you up. It's going to only confuse you and then get you in trouble with the Most High. So we know what a covenant is now. We know even that the definitions that were given, that a covenant is not only a compact, an agreement, a deal, a stipulation, but an oath or promise, but it is also an engagement and an espousal, and also it said marriage. So now, what is a contract? Because, see, as we have just proven through Torah, that a covenant that you make with Yah is everlasting. It cannot be broken. And so, with man and a contract, as I stated earlier, if I have a cell phone and you enter into a contract agreement, a contract agreement is not forever. There are stipulations to that contract, but if you break that contract, for example, I'm going to use myself. I was with Sprint. I broke the contract agreement prior to the ending period that it was supposed to extend to. I think it was 2 years, and I broke it after a year and a half. So I had forgotten that I had made this contract years ago, and then I look up one day and I check my account. I'm like, $400? Like, where does this come from? I forgot that was part of the terms and conditions. That was the stipulation, okay, for breaking that contract. Now, if I would have remained with Sprint and allowed them to be my carrier until the end of that 2-year period, at the expiration of that contract, I would have been free to go and choose another carrier. But that is not how Yah works. When you enter into agreement, as we've just seen from the precepts that was read in Torah, it is everlasting. It cannot be broken. It is binding forever. Whereas a contract, it has an expiration date. Okay? And so that's the difference between a covenant and a contract. I'm just making it as simple as possible. All right. The entire Bible, as it pertains to the old, or what I would like to call the original and the renewed contract, the entire Bible from beginning to ending, it's about a love story. It's about a marriage, a betrayal that took place within that marriage, which led to a divorce. Okay? And it also talks about the soon-to-be renewed covenant, okay, with Yah and Israel. Through this, and I can't say too much because I don't want to get into part 3, but we're going to talk more about that. Today's audio teaching, part 1 of the Bible is Your History, is the covenant. We're going to dissect this. We're going to go through the journey of how this began. So when someone say, how do you know we the chosen people? You need to understand covenant. You can easily say, oh, well, we the chosen people because of the ships. They need to see it from the beginning. Our people don't know anything about covenant. They don't teach them that in Sunday church. They don't know anything about it. They don't know anything about the Torah because the pastor is telling them that it's done away with. Those of you who are listening, truly soak up what is being taught to you today so that you can teach someone else and show them through scriptures, because the way I'm going to show you today, they're not going to be able to deny it. We're not leaving any stone left unturned today, because when they have this thorough teaching and this thorough understanding, then, as we will do next week in part 2's lesson is going to cover the divorce, because we're going to talk about the covenant today, the covenant and the marriage, the covenant marriage that Yah entered into with these people. Part 2 next week is going to be about the divorce of the covenant people. And then part 3 is going to talk about the remarriage of the covenant people, those same covenant people. But if you can go through these, if you take in what's going to be taught in these series, you will be able to prove and show them. And then they don't want it. It's just going to be because they're being forward and they don't want to do it because it's going to require change. But they won't be able to say, oh, well, just because you're saying that we the people, you got to do more than say the black people are the Hebrew Israelites. You got to do more than that. You know, our people always looking for signs. You got to have a handstand. You got to do an entertainment act. You got to do a lot. So, and you got to be able to show them from the word, because they don't like to read the word. But that's the only way they're going to get it. So, again, the entire scriptures from the original to the renewed covenant, the old and the new, it's about a love story between Yah and Israel, the marriage covenant, the betrayal that took place, which led to the divorce, and then the soon-to-be renewed covenant, the soon-coming wedding of the bride of the Mashiach. And so our people need to know this, because they think they're going to be the bride, but they're going to be the foolish brides being turned away because they don't have any oil in their lamps. So how did this everlasting covenant, because now I can say that it's everlasting, we've already gone through this, that Yah said it's everlasting. How did this everlasting covenant begin? You know, as we continue this month in the Bible is Your History series, we're going to answer all of these questions all the way up until how is it all going to end. So let's get started. So, you know, in the beginning, after the fall of mankind took place in the Garden of Eden, in Genesis chapter 3, we know that mankind was in total darkness and total separation from Yah. They were without hope. Nevertheless, mankind continued to spiral out of control, only continuing to do evil, as we have read in Genesis chapter 6, so much so that Yah made a decision to destroy the earth by flood. Now, after Noah and his descendants repopulated the earth through Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's 3 sons, and we see this in Genesis chapter 11, that the whole earth was of one speech, meaning of one language. And we talked about this before when we did the lesson on the tongues, okay? But they were under Nimrod, okay? He was from Ham, Cush. But they were purposed to build a tower all the way to heaven so that they could fight against Yah. And so when Yah saw the city and the tower that the sons of Adam had built, he confounded, meaning he mixed or confused their languages. So this is how all of the different languages that we have today came to be. So on account of this, men were scattered all abroad the face of the earth. So we see in Genesis chapter 11 and 10 that the generations and the lineage of Shem begins. So let us all quickly go to Genesis chapter 11, and we're going to read verses 10 through 32. Genesis chapter 11, and then we're going to read 10 through 32. And definitely have your patience with us today, because we are truly going to dissect this and take this journey. And I would love to hear feedback from everyone that's listening when this is over, to see if you got anything extra out of it. Do you feel like, you know what, after hearing this lesson, I feel more prepared to be able to break this down to a pastor or a teacher or an evangelist, someone else that's a Christian that doesn't understand, or even our own Hebrew brethren, what many oftentimes still don't understand, who may be knowing the truth. So let's go to Genesis chapter 11, and we're going to begin at verse 10. And this is the lineage after. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was the son of 100 years and father Arpachshad 2 years after the flood. And after he fathered Arpachshad, Shem lived 500 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. Arpachshad lived 35 years and fathered Selah. And if I mess up these names, please forgive me, because you know the Bible got some names for you. Verse 13. And after he fathered Selah, Arpachshad lived 430 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. And Selah lived 30 years and fathered Eber, which is Hebrew. And I actually proved this earlier, according to Strong Hebrews, that Eber is Hebrew. And I'll give you the number, the Strong Hebrews number, at the end of the show, that Eber, E-B-E-R, is Hebrew, okay, according to Strong Hebrew. And after he fathered Eber, then Salah lived 403 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. Eber lived 34 years and fathered Peleg. And after he fathered Peleg, Eber lived 430 years and fathered sons and daughters. Peleg lived 30 years and fathered Ru. And let's just keep going all the way down. Let's go down to verse 25. The lineage just keeps going. And after he fathered Terah, Nahor lived 119 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years and then fathered Abram. This is Abram, okay? Nahor and Haran. And these are the generations of Terah. Terah fathered Abram, who is our forefather Abraham, but his name had not been changed yet, okay? Terah fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran fathered Lot, and Lot is Abraham's nephew. So let's go over to Genesis 12, and we're going to read verses 1 through 7. This is where Yah comes for Abram, okay, who will soon become Abraham. And Yah has said to Abram, go out from your land and from your kindred and from your father's house to the land which I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, and you will be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and curse the ones despising you, and in all the families of the earth shall be blessed. And Abram went out, even as Yah had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was a son of 75 years when he departed from Haran. And Abram took his wife Sarai and his brother's son Lot, and all their substance that they had gained, and the persons they had gotten in Haran, and they went out to go into the land of Canaan. And they came into the land of Canaan, and Abram passed through the land as far as the place of Shechem to the oak of Moreh, and the Canaanite was then in the land. And Yah appeared to Abram and said, I will give this set-apart land to your seed. And he built an altar to Yah, who appeared to him. So we see here that our forefather Abraham, Yah made a promise to him. He came looking for Abram, and the first thing he did was to tell him to come out from your land, get up, leave your kindred, meaning all your relatives, come out from your father's house, come out from everybody and everything that you know. And he says, I'm going to make of you a great nation. He says, I'm going to bless you, and I'm going to make your name great, and you will be a blessing. And then he goes on and further and say, I'm going to bless those that bless you and curse those that curse you. And this is the reason why people now and all these other nations have been afraid to come up against Israel, even now. Even though they don't know they're protecting the wrong people. But this is the reason why. Because of this right here that's being said in Genesis 12:3, that I'm going to bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. So there are, even the nations today, they try to act like they're atheists. And they don't believe in the Most High, but they don't mess with Israel. So they do believe. They do believe. That's the reason why they're not bothering them. Why do you think that the fake Jews can go around and say anti-Semitism? There's no such thing as Sem. It's Shem, S-H-E-M, not S-E-M. Not the same thing. But no one even looks at the scriptures and say, what is a Semitism? Noah never had a son named Sem. He had a son named Shem. It is very important to understand lineage and history and land, and I didn't see that until I started coming into the truth that how important it is to understand genealogy, okay? Because that's how they've been able to hide and pretend to be us to this day, because people really don't even read the lineage. Let's go over to Genesis 14 and 13, and it's going to even further confirm that Abraham was a Hebrew, okay? Because I did a lesson on Facebook about this, but from Abram to Abraham, and then how, many like to call us black Hebrew Israelites or Hebrew Israelites, but you never once anywhere in the scriptures see Hebrew Israelite used concurrently. You never see them used together. You don't see it. They're not. But we do know that Abram did come from the lineage of Eber. He did come from that. But that's not what Yah ever calls them. Yah never called Israel Hebrew Israelites, and he definitely didn't call us no black Hebrew Israelites. See, those people that you see out there standing out there cursing out people with all the Ninja Turtle and superhero outfits, they're cults. They're assigned to go out there and to do this so that people can be turned away from the truth of who Yah really is. They in no way represent our forefathers, those who are of the scriptures, and those who are walking according to his truth. They in no way represent us. That's why I say stay away from all these camps and cults, because that's exactly what they are. And they're out here teaching all kind of false doctrine and screaming hate the white man and saying all kind of vile things against our women, just all kind of crazy stuff. We're not black Hebrew Israelites. There's no such thing, and you cannot find it anywhere in Scripture where Yah refers to his chosen people, Israel, as black Hebrew Israelites. He never referred to them as black Hebrew Israelites. He never referred to them as Israelites. As we will see all throughout Scripture today as we do this lesson, he calls them Israel. That's it. He never referred to them as Hebrew Israelites or black Hebrew Israelites. So we want to make it clear that we are not those people. Genesis 14:13 says, and one who has escaped came and told Abram the Hebrew. Okay? Abram was a Hebrew. Okay? But Yah never calls him the Hebrew Israelite. But one came and told Abram the Hebrew, for he was living among the oaks of Mir and Amorite, and the brother of Eshcol and Aner, and they were possessors of a covenant with Abram. So I just wanted to make note that Abram was referred to as the Hebrew. Let me read a precept. Let's go to Genesis chapter 11. Let's see here. And I just want to go back real quickly so that you can see what I'm saying is true. Genesis 11:14 again. And Salah lived 30 years and fathered Eber. Remember, Eber is Hebrew. Okay? And then when you go over to verses 26 and 27, you see again that as the lineage goes on, that Abram is from this same lineage. Okay, so I just wanted to make that clear. So let's go over to Genesis chapter 15. And we're going to go into the blessings and the promises that were given to Abraham, along with the prophecy that his seed will be as the stars of the heaven. Genesis 15, because remember, and keep in mind, while all of what is being stated, keep in mind what I read earlier in Deuteronomy 23 about the covenant and how Yah views a covenant, when you enter into a covenant with him, and how whatever you utter out of your mouth a vow or promise, that you must do that which passed through your lips. Just remember that as we're going through. Never get that out your mind while we're going through. Genesis 15, we're going to read verses 1 through 6. And after these things, the word of Yah came to Abram in a vision, saying, do not fear, Abram. I am a shield to you. Your reward will increase greatly. And Abram said, Most High Yah, what will you give to me? I am going childless, and the son of the inheritance of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. And Abram said, Behold, you have given no seed to me, and lo, the son of my house is inheriting of me. And behold, the word of Yah came to him, saying, This one shall not be your heir, but he that shall come forth out of your own bowels shall be your heir. And he brought him outside and said, Look now at the heavens and count the stars, if you are able to count them. And he said to him, So shall your seed be. And he believed in Yah. See, Abraham believed in Yah. He believed what Yah said. He trusted in Yah. And what did Yah say? He counted it to him for righteousness. He counted it to be righteousness that he believed him. So he told him that you're going to have an heir, but it's not going to be him. It's going to be someone that comes forth out of your own bowels that's going to be your heir, okay? Let's go over to verses 12 through 14. Still in Genesis chapter 15. Now we're going over to 12 through 14. And it happened As the sun was setting and a deep sleep fell on Abram, and behold, a terror of great darkness was falling on him. And he said to Abram, surely you must know that your seed shall be an alien in a land not theirs, and they shall serve them. And they shall afflict them 400 years, and I also will judge the nation with whom they shall serve. And afterwards they shall come out with a great substance. This is a prophecy right now. This was a prophecy, and I'm trying not to go into part 2, but it's going to be kind of hard. But this is a prophecy right now that's given to Abram, okay, that his seed, those that would come from his loins, his vows, his descendants, would go into slavery for 400 years. But then he said, Yah also promised that nation that he would send them to, that he was going to judge that nation whom they will serve. And then he said afterwards they're going to come out with great substance. So we're not going to be leaving out of here empty. Okay? Remember, whatever Yah has spoken, it is already so. So we have to be his father, our forefather Abram right now, because he's not Abraham. We have to trust in what Yah has said in spite of what it looks like. It doesn't look like we're going to leave out of here with anything, but our trust is in Yah, what his word says, and we know he's not a man that he should lie. Let's go over to Genesis chapter 16, because now in Genesis chapter 16, we're going to read verses 1 through 4 and 11 through 16, and we're going to see that this is the part of this story where Abraham finally is going to bear a son. So let's go into that. Genesis chapter 16, and we're going to read verses 1 through 4 and then 11 through 16. And Sarai, Abram's wife, did not bear to him, and to her belonged a female slave, an Egyptian, and her name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, see now, Yah has kept me from bearing. Go in now to my maidservant, perhaps I may build up from her. And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took her slave girl Hagar, the Egyptian, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife, after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan. And he went in to Hagar, and she conceived, and she saw that she had conceived, and her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said to Abram, my injury be upon you. I gave my slave girl into your bosom, and she saw that she had conceived, and I was despised in her eyes. Let Yah judge between me and you. And Abram said to Sarai, see, your slave girl is in your hand. Do to her what is good in your eyes. And Sarai dealt harshly with her, and she fled from her face. So we see here that, this is, when we read this, another thing I want to bring out is the whole thing with the multiple wives things. They try to use this. All the instances where it was being done, it was either someone being tricked, as in the case with Isaac and Laban, with Rebekah and Leah, or in the case right here, Abram didn't come to Sarai and say, I want a second wife. She is the one that put this in his head. This was something that she told him to do because she was worried about not giving him an heir, not being able to build up. So she said, well, go into my slave servant, Hagar, and he listened to her. So it wasn't like he just went behind her back, lusted after a woman, and brought the woman home and said, here, I brought another wife home, and you don't have no say. So that's not true. The husband can't just come bring home another woman and you have not spoken to your wife about it. And I'm not going to get off into multiple marriages because that's what this is about, but I just wanted to kind of make that point there. But here we see that once he went into Hagar, slept with her, and she conceived and bore a son, then Sarai hated her. She despised her, and she treated her harshly to the point where Hagar, she ran off, okay? And so let's go over to verses 11 through 16. And the messenger of Yah said to Hagar, behold, you are with child and shall bear a son, and you shall call his name Ishmael, because Yah has listened to your affliction. And he shall be a wild ass of a man, his hand against all, and the hand of everyone against him, and he shall live before all his brothers. And she called the name of Yah, the one speaking to her. You, Most High of vision, she said, even here have I looked after the one seeing me. On account of this, the well was called the well of the living one seeing me. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore a son to Abram. So listen and underline Hagar. And then she bore a son to Abram. She bore a son to Abram. And Abram called the name of his son whom Hagar bore Ishmael. Who Ishmael is the modern day Arabs today. Okay? And just as the scripture says, they're wild as of a man. Okay? Verse 16, and Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. Underline that in verse 16 too, because it's repeated. You notice in Torah and in Hebrew, they repeat things, okay, to make sure that you get the understanding. And that's the way that I teach too. A lot of times I'm repeating things, but by the time at the end of the lesson, you really got it. Okay, let's go over to chapter 17. I'm hoping everybody is with me. Chapter 17. Now we're going to enter into the Abrahamic covenant. This is where the Abrahamic covenant begins, where his name is getting ready to be changed now. Remember, Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. Genesis 17, we're going to read verses 1 through 9, and then verses 15 through 22. Genesis 17, verses 1 through 9, and then 15 through 22. Genesis 17 and 1. And when Abram was 99 years old, Yah appeared to Abram and said to him, I am Most High, Yah. Walk before me and be perfect, and I will make my covenant between me and you, and will increase you very greatly. And Abram fell on his face, and Yah spoke with him, saying, as for me, behold, my covenant is with you. So Yah is declaring to him and affirming that my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations. So Abraham is not just the father, as we're going to see, of the Israelites, but he is the father of many nations, because Ishmael is also his son, and they are also Hebrews through Abraham, or through Abram, who later became Abraham, but they're not Israelites. Because a lot of people get that confused. They think if you're Hebrew, then you're a Hebrew Israelite. You're both. No, you're not. Okay? There's a difference between the two. As we go on, you will see this. Okay? And so beginning in verse 3, and Abram fell on his face, and Yah spoke with him, saying, as for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations, and your name no longer shall be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. That's what Abraham means. He's an exalted father. He's a father of many nations. He says, and I will make you very fruitful exceedingly, and I will give you for nations, and kings shall come out of you, and I will establish my covenant between me and you. So this covenant was originally established with Abraham and Abraham alone. He says, I will establish my covenant between me and you, okay, and, see that and? That means in addition to you, and also, or in conjunction to, or with your seed after you. So that means those that will come after you, those descendants that will come from your loin, those would be included. Those, your seed after you in their generations, for what kind of covenant? An everlasting covenant. He did not enter into a contract that expires. He said an everlasting covenant to be a power to you and to your seed after you. I hope we're listening. And I will give to you and to your seed after you the land of your sojourning, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their power. And Yah said to Abram, you shall keep my covenant. So Yah said to Abraham, you have to keep my covenant. Here are the stipulations. Remember, covenant, one of the words for covenant was stipulation, means the terms and the conditions. I'm promising that I'm going to bless you and I'm going to make you exceedingly great and kings going to come from your loins and nations, but you have to keep my covenant, the agreement. He said, and not only Abraham, but who else? In verse 9, you and your seed after you in their generations. Okay? So, there were stipulations to this. Okay? Let's go over now to verse 15 through 22. And Yah said to Abraham, now his name is Abraham. Yah said to Abraham, you shall not call your wife Sarai by her name Sarai, for Sarah shall be her name. So now her name is changed to Sarah, from Sarai to Sarah now. Her name is Sarah. And he says, I have blessed her and have also given to you a son from her. Yes, I have blessed her, and she shall become nations. Kings of people shall be from her. And Abram fell on his face and laughed. And he said in his heart, shall one be born to a son of 100 years old? So he's like, I'm 100 years old. He laughing. He's like, well, how in the world I'm going to have a child? And I'm 100 years old. So let's go over now. So now we see that the names of Abram and Sarai have been changed to Abraham to Sarah. So now we're calling them Abraham and Sarah. So he is no longer Abram. Okay, keep that in mind. Let's go to Genesis 18, and we're going to read verses 18 and 19. Genesis 18, verses 18 and 19. And Abraham shall surely become a great and powerful nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I have known him, so that whatever he may command his sons and his house after him, even they may keep the way of Yah, to do righteousness and justice, to the intent that Yah may bring on Abraham. Okay? So here he's saying that Yah is basically decreeing that through Abraham, all the nations of the earth will be blessed through him. And then he says that he's known him, and that whatever he commands his sons and his house, because we know there's two houses, okay, that even they may keep the way of Yah to do righteousness and to justice. And the same intent that Yah expects for Abraham to do it, they're going to have to do it, that which he has spoken of him. Let's go to Genesis 21. We're going to read verses 1 through 3. Genesis 21 and verses 1 through 3. Yah visited Sarah as he said, and Yah did to Sarah as he promised. See, remember what we read? We'll keep going back to the covenant promise. He said, whatever you vow, he says, whatever you utter out your mouth, you must do all that you have said. Okay? Otherwise, he said it is sin, and we know that Yah it can never do that. So he had already promised Abraham that princes were going to come and kings and nations was going to come from her. So he said the same thing. What he said he was going to do, we see here in Genesis 21 and verse 1, that Yah visited Sarah as he had promised, as he said, okay? And Yah did to Sarah as he had promised. And Sarah conceived and bore a son to Abraham. Sarah bore a son to Abraham, not Abram, but Abraham, in his old age, at the appointed time which Yah had spoken with him. And Abraham called the name of the son who was born to him, whom Sarah had borne to him, Isaac. So here we see that the son that Abraham had in faith with Sarah is Isaac. He's called Isaac. So, continuing with this love story, we know that the fall of mankind in the garden, we know that we now have to prove that we're worthy of being in the kingdom. Everything is just not given to us as it was before. Before, we didn't have to work until like we have to work so hard now. We know that the ground has thorns and thistles that come up. Everything is harder. We didn't have to do that. It was all given to us, but since the fall of mankind, now we have to prove now that we're worthy of being in the kingdom. And so we have to be willing to sacrifice, okay, and sacrifice any and all for the kingdom's sake. And so this means that as believers, we're going to be tested by Yah. There's going to be times that we're going to be tested. Now, only Satan tempts. So I want to make it clear. I'm not saying that Yah tempts, because Yah says he does not tempt. He says one is only tempted when they're drawn away after their own lust. But he does test to see if we will obey him or we're going to betray him. And so in Genesis chapter 22, we're going to read about this test. We're going to read about this test. And Abraham was tested by Yah. And I just want to make a quick note that for those of you who don't know, that the Sabbath day is also the test to see if you will obey the rest of the commandments. And many of our people have failed the test greatly with flying colors. So let's go over to Genesis chapter 22. We're going to read verses 1 through 18 quickly. And we're going to read about this test, because this test is going to lead to even more blessings that's going to come through his seed. So let's read about this. Genesis 22, verses 1 through 18. And it happened after these things, Yah, testing Abraham, said to him. So verse 1 lets us know right off the bat that Yah is going to test Abraham now, okay? He's going to have to prove, okay? And he said to Abraham, here, behold, I am here. And he said, now take your son Isaac, your only one whom you love. So he called Isaac his only son, okay, whom he had loved, because Abraham was his son with Sarah, not Ishmael, not like Ishmael when he was Abram before faith. But he said, take your son, your only one, whom you love, and go into the land of Moriah, and there offer him for a burnt offering on one of the mountains, which I will say to you. And Abram rose up early in the morning and saddled his donkey, and he took 2 of his youths with him and his son Isaac. And he split the wood for a burnt offering and rose up and went to the place where Yah had set him. And on the 3rd day, Abram lifted up his eyes and saw the place from a distance. And Abram said to his young men, you stay here with the donkey, and I and the boy will go over there, that we may worship and return to you. And Abram took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac and his son. And he took the fire and the knife in his hand, and the two went together. And Isaac spoke to his father Abraham and said, my father. And he said, behold, I am here. And he said, see the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? So I guess Isaac said, okay, we up here, but okay, who getting ready to get sacrificed? Where is the lamb that's getting ready to get sacrificed? And Abram said, my son, Yah will see for himself the lamb for a burnt offering. And the 2 of them went together. And they went to the place which Yah had said to him. And Abraham built there the altar and arranged the wood. And he bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar and on the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. And the messenger of Yah called to him from the heavens and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, I am here. And he said, do not lay your hand on the boy, and nor do anything to him. For now I know that you fear Yah, and you have not withheld your son, your only one, from me. And as I think about this kind of sends me into the picture of Yahushua, how Yah said it pleased him to bruise his only son, that his only begotten son, and he said he loved us so much that he sent his only begotten son. It pleased him to bruise him. He allowed his only begotten son to die for us, to have his blood shed that we might be redeemed back to him. So whosoever believeth in him shall not what? Perish, but shall have what? Everlasting life. So when I read this shows me how a picture of how Yah expects for us to sacrifice. He sacrificed for us that we might be redeemed back because we were without hope. So we have to prove now that we're worthy of being in the kingdom. Just as he commanded before he was Abram, but he told him to, look, get up, leave your family, all your kindred, your relatives, your father, leave them all and come. And so how many people listening, if Yah told you to just get up and leave everything and leave your family, how many of you would be willing to do that? How many of you would be doubting, and being hesitant in doing that? But he walked away from everything and he obeyed Yah. And he had faith, and Yah counted it as righteousness. Now he asked him to sacrifice his only son. And he said, because you did this, I now know that you would not have withheld your only son, okay? And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a ram behind him was entangled in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Yahweh, which means Yah will provide, so that it is said until this day that in the mount of Yah it will be seen. And so we see that the same thing, and we don't know how we're all going to be tested. It could be, be something else. We might be tested financially. I know I've went through it a lot, and I know I had to trust Yah for 5 months when I lost my teaching job, and I didn't have anything. When I say nothing coming in for 5 months, I mean absolutely nothing, no money coming in from anywhere. And I had to rely on family members and friends to take care of me and make sure that I ate and that all my bills was paid and that I didn't get kicked out of my house. I didn't lose my car. My son still had his needs. When I say nothing, the most people would be out on the street with no money coming in for 5 months. And Yah still sustained me. Because a lot of times people will be like, they will be cursing Yah. And you think about Job and how Job lost everything, but he was still blessing Yah and still thanking Yah in the midst of all of that. He didn't turn his back. Many people, if they had to go 5 months with no money, they would probably stop serving Yah. I was still in the midst of it, still teaching, still do every week, never stopped. Did I like it? No. It was very uncomfortable. My faith was being tried. But I'm not getting ready to listen to no matter what Satan say, because, when you're going through those times, Satan is right there to give a lending ear to tell you, look, he's not even here. Doesn't his word say that if you keep his commandments, that he will bless the fruit of your body and your land? Well, you don't look like, that's how he do. Sit on your shoulder and, start spewing things in your ear. And for a lot of people, if your faith is weak, you will turn back from the truth because it doesn't look like, he's there or that but we have to prove. We have to prove that we are worthy. But let me continue reading on to verse 18. I'm going to go start at verse 15. And the messenger of Yah called to Abraham out of the heavens the second time. He said, I have sworn by myself, declares Yah, that on account of this thing you have done, and have not withheld your son, your only son, that blessing, I will bless you, and multiplying, I will multiply your seed as the stars of the heavens, and as the sand which is on the lip of the sea. and your seed shall possess the gate of his enemies, and in your seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because you have listened to my voice. So because of what our forefather Abraham did, we are receiving the blessings because he made the covenant with him first, okay? And then his seed and his descendants, which we are. So because he listened, and I'm thankful that Abraham didn't falter, that he obeyed, because we are reaping the benefits of his obedience. And this is the same way that your children or your children's children will reap the benefits of you being obedient today. Me being obedient, my son can reap the benefits of that. Even with David and Solomon, even when he messed up, but because of David, his forefather David, who we know the scripture said had a heart after Yah, he showed mercy on Solomon because of his father David. So it does matter how you live your life before Yah, because it does affect your children. He says to the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, but blessing those to the third and fourth generation that love me. What is love? Keeping his commandments. He equates hating him with walking in disobedience. So all praises be to the Most High Yah that our forefather Abraham listened, he heard, because in the Hebrew, to hear means to obey and to do. It doesn't mean I hear you and I hear some sounds coming out of your mouth. When someone hears you, they actually do it. And I keep using this example. If I tell my son to clean up his room and I have to keep repeating it, and he said, okay, Ma, I heard you, but you still haven't done it. No, you didn't hear me, because when you actually hear me, you'll do it. In the Hebrew, to hear means to obey. When he says, Shema Israel, that means to hear. Hear, O Israel, obey. Do what I said to do, per Deuteronomy chapter 6. This was a lesson that I had with my son yesterday, so he could understand what it truly means when Yah says continuously, hear, O Israel. He's not talking about listen with your ears. I mean for you to do what I told you to do. You mean to obey me, because that's what Shema, or to hear, means. It means to obey, and then when you obey, you do it. Let's go to, we're going to skip forward, but we remember in Genesis chapter 17 and 21, remember Yah told Abraham that the covenant blessings would come through Isaac. Remember, he said it was going to come through Isaac and not Ishmael. So we're going to skip forward to Genesis chapter 25. And Isaac is now married to Rebekah. We're skipping forward. Can't read every chapter, but we're skipping forward. Isaac is now, he's married to Rebekah. But she also, as Abraham's wife, Sarah, was barren. So we see in Genesis chapter 25, verses 21 through 26, we're going to read of this story, because Isaac's wife is also barren, as Sarah was. So let's go to Genesis chapter 25, and we're going to read verses 1 through 5. And Abram added and took a wife, and her name was Keturah, and she bore to him Zimran, and Zoskan, and Medan, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shun. I'm getting ready to mess up all these things. I'm getting ready to mess all this stuff up again. I do not like messing up these names. Let me go. Let's go over to Genesis chapter 26. I got the wrong chapter. I'm sorry. Genesis chapter 26, 1 through 5. Genesis 26, 1 through 5. I apologize. Looking at these, I got too many notes. And it says, a famine was in the land besides the famine in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Amalek, the king of the Philistines, to Gerar. And Yah appeared to him and said, do not go down into Egypt, but dwell in the land which I shall say to you. Stay in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. For to you and to your seed I will give all these lands, and I will cause to rise my oath, which I swore to your father Abraham. And I will increase your seed like the stars of the heavens, and I will give to your seed all these lands, and all the nations of the earth shall bless themselves in your seed. Because Abraham listened to my voice and heeded my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my Torah. So here we see that Isaac is reaping the benefits of his father Abraham's obedience, and because of that, he says that if that he would bless him and his seed, and he was going to give them the land, because he said that he swore in his oath. Okay, remember, keep going back to Deuteronomy 23 with that oath. Whatever you have said that you were going to do, you have to do it. Yah abides by that himself. Okay, so because he swore that oath to Abraham and to his seed, he's passing this on to Abraham's son, Isaac. Okay, and so it continues on down in verse 24. Go to Genesis 26:24. And Genesis 26:24, it says, and Yah appeared to him in the same night and said, I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not fear, for I am with you, and I will bless you, and I will increase your seed because of my servant Abraham. Okay, so he's telling him again, I'm going to be with you, I'm going to bless you, I'm going to increase your seed. Let's go to Genesis chapter 28, and we're going to read verses 11 through 16. Genesis 28, we're going to read 11 through 16. And then we're going to also read, I think, verse 21. Okay, Genesis 28 and verse 11. And he came, and this is Jacob now, and he came on a place and stayed the night there, for the sun had gone, and took stones of the place and placed them at his head. And he laid down in that place, and he dreamed, and behold, a staircase was placed on the earth, and its top reaching to the heavens. And behold, the messengers of Yah were going up and down on it. So Jacob is having a dream. And so this is what we're reading now, is where the covenant passes from Isaac to Jacob, and then Jacob then vows a vow to serve Yah and to make him his power. Okay, so Jacob is having a dream here, and in this dream there's a staircase that's placed upon the earth and is reaching up to the heavens, and it says that the messengers of Yah was going up and down it. And he says, and behold, Yah stood above it and said, I am Yah, the power of your father Abraham, the power of Isaac, and the land which you are lying. I will give it to you and to your seed, and your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall spread to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south, and to all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your seed. He says, and behold, I will be with you, and I will guard you in every place in which you may go. So look at all these promises and these oaths that Yah is promising to them as long as they obey, and will bring you back to this land. And then he says, I will not forsake you until I have surely done that which I have spoken. So he's saying, I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going to forsake you. All that which I'm telling you, I'm not going to leave you. He said, until I have spoken all that I've said I've done. We read this in Deuteronomy 32. I'm sorry, Deuteronomy 23, the same thing. He said, whatever you have that has come out of your mouth that you say you're going to do, you must do it. When you vow a vow to Yah, you shall not delay in performing it, for Yah will certainly require it of you. He says, if you don't do it, it's going to be sin. He says, that which has gone out of your mouth or from your lips, he says, you shall keep and you shall do it. Well, is he not honoring the same thing that he told us in Deuteronomy 23, verses 21 through 23? Of course he is. He's honoring his same word. He's holding himself to the same standards and stipulations that he required of us. So we're going to keep reading to verse 16. He says, behold, I will be with you. I will guard you in every place in which you go, and will bring you back to this land. For I will not forsake you until I have surely done that which I have spoken to you. And Jacob awakened from his sleep and said, surely Yah is in this place, and I did not know. Okay, so let's go to verse 21. He says, and I return in peace to the house of my father. Then Yah shall be my power. So he's declaring that he's going to return and that Yah is going to be his power. Now, as we continue, and I think you can turn to Genesis chapter 32. Genesis chapter 32. But, as we continue to read on, you're going to find that from birth, Jacob and Esau, who were twin brothers, they fought in the womb. They didn't get along. Even in the womb, they hated each other. Even though, again, in the Hebrew, we know that the blessings always go to the firstborn son. But remember, Yah promised Abraham that the blessing was going to come through who? Isaac. And now through who? Jacob. So it was promised, told to Isaac that it was going to come through Jacob. And now the blessing and the covenant would come, that the blessing and the covenant would be that he was going to bless them. That would be the blessing. Let's go to Genesis 32 and let's read this quickly. We're going to read Genesis 32. We're going to read verses 27 and 28 because before we get to there, Jacob has an interesting encounter, and then Yah changes Jacob's name. So we're getting ready. I'm leading you on this journey so we can know, how did the covenant come to be with the Israelites? How did it become? Okay, because up until this point, when I first started off, I started off with the end from the beginning, and then I took you back. I took you over those precepts that showed that Yah's heart was crushed because they committed adultery, they whored, that Yah affirmed that he entered into a covenant relationship with Israel. But I had not taken you from the beginning. I gave you the ending from the beginning, but not all the way to the ending because we haven't gone into the renewed covenant, but kind of sort of towards the end. And then I started all over again from the beginning. So now we're coming to the part where we're seeing how Israel is coming into place. Because up until this point, we've been dealing with Abraham, we've been dealing with Isaac, and now we're dealing with Jacob. But we haven't dealt with Israel yet, but that's coming now. So Genesis chapter 32, let's go over to 27 and 28 where we see that Jacob is having an interesting encounter, and his name is changed. And he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." And he said, "Your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with Yah and with men and have prevailed." And Jacob asked and said, "Please reveal your name." And he said, "Why is it that you ask about my name?" And he blessed him there. So we see here that the interesting encounter that Jacob had was, and for those of you who, and I don't want to confuse people who are listening, so I'm just going to keep my mouth closed, who he was actually wrestling with. If you're a Facebook friend and you want to know, you can contact me. You can also email me at servants@yahoo.com, and I can reveal that, but I don't want to do it on today's show because we're talking about the covenant. I don't want to confuse anyone because you got to have an understanding before I can even reveal that. But it wasn't really a man. Okay, I'll put it that way. But as we're saying that he's having an encounter with an angel, okay? And his name was changed. And Jacob was given a new name. And some people are like, okay, well, what's the with the name? Why? Well, Yah tells you that in Proverbs 22:1 that a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. So before Jacob became Israel, he wrestled with I say man/angel. But I want you to really think about it. Jacob was the one that was wrestling, and then afterwards his name was changed to Israel. And going back to verse 28, it says, you shall no longer be called Jacob but Israel, because you have struggled with Yah and with men, and you have prevailed. So we know that Ephesians 6 says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood. But when we study to show ourselves approved and be a workman needing not being ashamed, and we know that we prevail in the understanding of Scripture and prevail in overcoming Satan and his devices, because those unclean spirits and these demons and these spirits in high places, we know that they're not flesh and blood that we're dealing with. And we have to, they're not going anywhere, okay? He's allowing them to be here, but it's for a purpose. We have to prevail. We have to overcome men. Many false prophets have gone out that are being, and many anti-messiahs, many people are being used by demons and unclean spirits, things that are not flesh and blood, and they're in high places and principalities. And it says that Jacob wrestled. Some say a man, some say angel, but it was not human. And we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Okay? And he prevailed. Just as we have to prevail and overcome Satan and his devices. And when we're able to prevail after wrestling with that which is not against flesh and blood, then we have the opportunity to enter into this soon-to-be renewed marriage covenant of the Lamb, and when the vows, these same vows that were taken before, will be renewed. That's what a lot of people do. Like, okay, I've been married for 10 years. I've been married for 25 years, 50 years. We're going to renew our vows. When you renew, means again. To do over. So if I renew my vows with my husband, I'm not getting a new husband. It's not a new wife. If it's a new husband and a new wife, how can it be a renewed covenant? How can you renew your vows with someone that you didn't know at first? Who did he say, only you, Israel, have I known? Then who was it that we just got finished reading when he said that he told Isaac that I knew Abraham and I blessed him and I told him that I was going to bless his seed, and now I'm going to bless you. He told Israel in Judges, I can't remember the chapter, I think it's 2, he said, I will never break my covenant with you. He said, I will never do that. Why? Because we just got finished reading Deuteronomy 21, verses 21 through 23. Torah. He said, I'm never going to break it. Who did he made it first with? Abraham. We're going to talk a little bit more about that at the end. Wrestle not against flesh and blood. We have to overcome Satan and his devices. When you go back and read Ephesians chapter 6, so that Satan is going to be throwing the arrows. He's going to be throwing the darts. Are you going to be able to withstand? Let me read that right now. Ephesians chapter 6. Put on the whole armor, Yah, that you might be able to stand against the strategies over the devil. When you withstand, that means you overcome. For we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but with principalities and with those in authority and with the possessors of darkness of the dark world and with evil spirits that are beneath the heavens. Put on the whole armor of Yah, that you will be able to resist the evil one, that you, being prepared, shall prevail. This is not what happened with Jacob. Are we not those same people? Because we see that Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and Israel, a.k.a. Jacob, wrestled with that was not flesh in Ephesians chapter 6, Israel today, that we wrestle not against flesh and blood. So just as our forefather Jacob, a.k.a. Israel, had to wrestle and overcome, and he prevailed, he was blessed. Will you prevail? I'm hoping you guys are getting this. So, again, in Genesis chapter 32, 27 and 28, Jacob's name is changed to Israel. So, now we are seeing the nation of Israel. Now we're starting to see. Because in the beginning, I kind of read the end from the beginning. I kind of showed you through Scripture who Yah was already married to, who Yah was in covenant relationship with, who were these covenant people that crushed his heart, that committed adultery. We knew that from the beginning. I took you through that from the end at the beginning of this teaching, and then I took you back. Now we're there again from where we began. Now we know how Israel became Israel, how it happened, which of the, between Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's name was changed. Jacob was the one whose name was changed to Israel. Let's go to, now we're going to go to Genesis 35, okay? So we're getting there. We're getting there to Israel. Okay, we're getting there to Israel. We know that we're seeing that the nation of Israel, who are Hebrews, as we just proved in Genesis chapter 11 when we went through the lineage, that the Israelites were Hebrews. But we're seeing now Israel come into existence as a nation of people. We're getting ready to start coming into seeing them as a nation of people, his descendants that he said he was going to be blessed. Those will be known as the children of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel, a.k.a. Jacob, who was renamed Israel. We know that Israel had 12 sons. This is where we are right now. Let's go to Genesis chapter 35. Let's read 9 through 12. And then verse 26, Genesis chapter 35, 9 through 12. And Yah appeared to Jacob again when he came out of Pandarum, and he blessed him. Okay? So Yah appeared to Jacob again. Yah said to him, your name is Jacob. Your name will not anymore be called Jacob. Okay? So we're seeing it change. But Israel will be your name. And he called his name Israel. So here we see it, Genesis 35, verse 10. Let's go ahead and keep reading to verse 12. And Yah said to him, I am the Most High Yah. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall come from you. So Yah is telling Jacob that a company or a host of nations are going to come from you, and kings shall come forth from your loins. And the land which I gave to Abraham and to Isaac, see, he's continuing his promise. He said, I will give it to you, and after you I will give the land to your seed. So we see the promise is continuing. He is no longer Jacob, but Jacob now has prevailed, and his name is now Israel. Let's go to verse 26. And Genesis 35, verse 26. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's slave girl, Gad and Asher, these were Jacob's sons who were born in Pandarum. All of Jacob's sons, you see the 12 tribes are listed here. It gives you a beginning, and go back to 22. I have 26 down here. I meant to put 22. Genesis 35, verse 22, it tells you, it says, after it happened, after Israel lived in the land. See, now Jacob is no longer being called Jacob. He's being called Israel. It happened after Israel lived in that land that Reuben went and lay by Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard. And the sons of Jacob were 12. So now it's telling you and it's showing you here that Jacob had 12 sons. And then it's listing in verse 23. Prina, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I heard a noise. I wasn't sure. And it says the sons of Leah, and then it lists all of the sons of Leah, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and the sons of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. And then we have Dan and Naphtali, and Gad and Asher. So we see all 12 tribes are listed here now, okay? So let's fast forward to Genesis chapter 37. And although Jacob had 12 sons, he loved Joseph, or shall I say Israel had 12 sons. I'm still kind of saying Jacob because I don't want to throw people off with Israel. You think I'm talking about the 12 tribes when I'm talking about Jacob. So when I speak of Jacob, we know his name was changed to Israel, but I don't want you to be confused and thinking I'm talking about the 12 tribes. So we know that Jacob had 12 sons, but he loved Joseph more than all the other sons, and they hated him. So let's read Genesis chapter 37. And, we're going to read Genesis 37, and we're going to read verses 3 through 13. And we see that Joseph has a mysterious dream, and his brothers envy him in what we're getting ready to read. Genesis 37, verses 3 through 13. And Israel loved Joseph more than all his other sons. So we know when it speaks of Israel, it's speaking of Jacob. So if you want to write, underline Israel and draw a line and say Jacob, you can do that. And Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons because he was the son of old age to him. And he made a coat of many colors reaching to the feet. And his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, and they hated him. And they were not able to speak to him for peace. And Joseph dreamed a dream and told it to his brothers, and they increased to hate him still more. And he said to them, now hear this dream which I have dreamed. And behold, we are binding sheaves in the middle of the field. So he's telling them what the dream is. He said, we're out in the field, we're binding sheaves in the middle of the field. And behold, my sheep rose up and also stood up, and behold, your sheaves came around and bowed themselves to my sheep. And his brothers said to him, shall you indeed reign over us, or shall you really rule over us? And they hated him still more because of his dream and because of his words. And he dreamed still another dream and told it to his brothers. And he said, behold, I have dreamed another dream, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing themselves to me. So the sun and the moon, as we're going to see, represents his mother and father, and the 11 sons represent his remaining 11 brothers, with him, Joseph, being the 12th. It is said the 11 stars were bowing themselves to me. Verse 10. And he told it to his father and to his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, what is this dream which you have dreamed? Shall we indeed come to bow ourselves to the earth to you, I and your mother and your brothers? And his brothers envy him, but his father was attentive to his word. And his brothers went to feed the flock of their father in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, and this is Israel, this means Jacob, said to Joseph, are not your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them. And he said to him, I am here. So, as you continue reading down, Joseph's brothers, they plot to kill him. They already hate him. But after the dream, where he's pretty much saying, you all are going to be bowing down and worshiping me, they really hate him now. And so they're plotting to kill him as you continue reading. And because of their father, though, and their love for their father Jacob, they decide, instead of killing him, that they're going to just sell Joseph into slavery and pretend that a wild, evil beast killed him. So let's continue reading in Genesis chapter 37, and we're going to go to verse 36. Genesis 37, we're going to go down to verse 26, and we're going to read verses 26 through 36. We're going to see what happens. And Judah said to his brothers, what gain is it that we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites. Who is Ishmaelites? See, we already know this is modern-day Arabs. We already talked about that. We know that they're the cousins. Ishmael are our cousins, okay? So he said, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites. okay? And do not let our hand be on him. So he's like, look, just sell it to the Ishmaelites and let them handle him, so that way if they kill him, the blood won't be on our hands. But they don't understand Torah, because if they did, if you take part in someone else being killed, even if it's indirectly and you're the cause of it, the blood is still on your hands. But let's continue on. For he is our brother, our flesh, and his brothers listen. And men, Midianites, traitors, passed, and they drew up and took Joseph out of the pit. And they sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph into Egypt. So the Midianites brought Joseph into Egypt. He's already sold. And Reuben came back to the pit. And behold, Joseph was not in the pit. And he tore his clothes. So we see that now he's tearing his clothes. And he returned to his brothers and said, the child is not. And where shall I go? And they took Joseph's long robe and killed a ram of the goats and dipped the robe in the blood. And they sent the long robe reaching to the feet. And they took it to their father and said, we have found this. Now look, it is not your son's robe. No, is this not your son's robe? So now they had to have some excuse when they came back. So they decided to kill a wild animal, dip Joseph's coat of many colors, dip it in there, and pretend that he got killed by this wild beast. Okay, so when Joseph knew it and said, my son's robe, an evil beast has eaten him. Surely Joseph is torn into pieces. So now Jacob is like, there's no way that my son Joseph is alive. I know he's gone. If a wild animal, look at this coat, is dipped in blood, I know he's been ripped to shreds. And Jacob tore his clothes, put on sackcloth on his loins, and he mourned many days for his son. So now Jacob is out here renting his clothes over the fact that he believes his son is dead. And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him. And he refused to be comforted and said, I will go down to Sheol, mourning for my son. And his father wept for him. And the Midianites sold him into Egypt. So when the Midianites had him, then they sold him into Egypt to Potiphar, who was an eunuch of Pharaoh, or the chief of the executioners. So Joseph is now sold into the Egyptians. So we're getting closer and closer to this covenant, okay? Let's go to Genesis chapter 39. And we're going to read verses 1 through 5. Genesis 39, verses 1 through 5. And Joseph was carried down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an eunuch of Pharaoh, the chief of the executioners, an Egyptian man, brought him from the land of the Ishmaelites, who had carried him down there. And Yah, and look at verse 2, it says, Yah was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of the Egyptians, his master. And his master saw that Yah was with him, and Joseph was prospering in his hand everything which he did. And Joseph found favor in his sight and served him, and he appointed him over his house. He gave all he owned into his hand. And it came about that from the time he appointed him over his house and over all he owned, Yah blessed the Egyptian house for Joseph's sake, and the blessing of Yah was on all that he had in the house in that field. So we see here Yah is with Joseph. Even while Joseph is in prison, even while Joseph is sold into the Egyptians, Yah is still with Joseph. He is blessing him. He's being shown favor in his eyes. And so we continue reading in Genesis 39, verse 6. It tells us that Joseph was if you look at verse 6, it says that Joseph was a very nice-looking man. He was built up nice, meaning Joseph had a body. In this chapter, Potiphar's wife tried to hit on Joseph, if you know the story. And because Joseph was a righteous man, he rejected her. And then when Joseph rejected Potiphar's wife, she lied and said he exposed himself. And basically she tried to sleep with him, tried to act like it was the other way around when she was the one that was throwing herself on him. So when this was brought up to Potiphar's attention in Genesis chapter 39, verses 19 through 20, tells us that Joseph was put into prison, but even while he was in prison, Yah was still with him. So let's read Genesis chapter 39, and we're going to read verses 19 through 23. Genesis 39, 19 through 23. And it happened, when his master heard his wife's words, which she spoke to him, saying, according to these words, your slave did to me, his anger glowed. So now the wife is lying on Joseph. Potiphar is getting upset. And Joseph's master took him and put him in the prison house, the place where the king's prisoners were bound. And he was there in the prison house. And Yah was with Joseph. So even while Joseph again was in prison, Yah was still with him, it says in verse 21, and extended kindness to him. And he gave him favor in the eyes of the warden of the prison house. And the warden of the prison house gave all the prisoners in the prison house into Joseph's hand. And all which he had did there, he was doing. There was no looking of the warden of the prison house to anything in his hand, and that Yah was with him, and Yah was prospering what he was doing. So even while he was in prison, Yah was still making sure that he prospered. He was still prospering during this time. And so when we continue reading on, Joseph, King Pharaoh is having these really bad dreams, and he does not know how to interpret these dreams. Let's go to Genesis 41. Genesis 41. I'm going to read verses 12 through 16. Joseph is interpreting, he's going to interpret Pharaoh's dream. Let's read this, because no one can interpret the dreams that Pharaoh is having. And so when Joseph interprets the dream, something very interesting happens. So Genesis chapter 41, verses 12 through 16. And a Hebrew youth was with us, a slave to the chief of the executioners, and we told him, and he interpreted our dreams to us. He interpreted to each according to his dream. And it happened as he had interpreted to us, so it was. He returned me to my position, and he hanged him. And Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they rushed him from the dungeon, and he shaved and changed his clothing and came to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is no one to interpret it. And I have heard about you, saying that you hear a dream to interpret it. And Joseph replied to Pharaoh, saying, not I, Yah will answer the peace of Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, in my dream, I was standing on the lip of the river. And so Pharaoh begins, when we continue reading, Pharaoh begins telling Joseph his dream. And so let's go to the verse where Joseph interprets Pharaoh's dream. Let's go to verse 25 through 44. And then we're going to read 55 through 57. So we're in Genesis 41, verses 25 through 44, and then verses 55 through 57. Verse 25. Now Joseph is getting ready to interpret Pharaoh's dream. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. Yah has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows, they are 7 years. And the 7 good years, they are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and evil appearing cows going up after them, they are 7 years. And the 7 empty ears blasted by the east wind will be 7 years of famine. This is the word that I spoke to Pharaoh. What Yah is about to do, he has made Pharaoh see. Behold, 7 years of great plenty are coming in all the land of Egypt, and 7 years of famine will arise after them, and all the plenty of the land of Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will consume the land. And the plenty in the land will not be remembered because of the famine afterwards, for it will be very severe. And as to the dream being repeated to Pharaoh twice, the thing is settled because it is from Yah, and Yah is hastening to do it. And now let Pharaoh look for a man who is intelligent and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh act, and let him appoint rulers over the land, and take 1/5 of the land of Egypt in the 7 years of plenty. And let them gather all the food of these coming good years, and let them heap up grain unto Pharaoh's hand as food in the cities, and let them keep it, and let the food be for a store for the land. For the 7 years of famine which will be in the land of Egypt, let not the land be cut off by famine. And the word was good in Pharaoh's eyes and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, Can we find any man like this, in whom the spirit of Yah is in? And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Since Yah has taught you all this, there is no one wise and intelligent like you. You shall be over my house, and at your mouth shall be ordered all my people. Only in respect to the throne will I be greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Behold, I have set you over all of the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it on the hand of Joseph. And he clothed him with fine linen robes and put a golden chain on his neck. And he caused him to ride in a chariot, which was the second to him. And he cried before him, Bow the knee. And he put him over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without a word from you, not a man shall lift his hand or his foot in the land of Egypt. So, Pharaoh again, Joseph has interpreted the dream, okay? And now, because he was able to interpret the dream, Joseph saves the land of Egypt from a famine. And not only Egypt, but all of the earth. All of the earth would soon come to Joseph for food, including his brothers who sold him into slavery. They would eventually come to him for help. And what we will find is, like the scripture says, that Yah will take what Satan means for evil and turn it around for good. What is meant for evil, a lot of times we will go through things and we will suffer and we will go through an affliction. Even who would think that one would get blessed out of being in prison? Who would think, oh, I'm going to prison, I'm going to be blessed? When he got sold into slavery, I know that he never thought that he was going to be governor. I mean, when you get sold into slavery and then you put in prison, no one is blessed when they're in prison. But he ended up, Yah was with him even while being persecuted. And even while he was there, he wasn't being persecuted. The only persecution that came was from his own, like many of us today. And so we're going to take a brief 2-minute break so I can get some water because my throat is really dry. This is 2 minutes. This is a beautiful a cappella song. If anyone wants to know the name of the song at the end of the show, let me know. But it is beautiful, and it's 2 minutes, and then we'll be right back.
I can I expect to win if I never try? I just can't give up now. I've come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me the road would be easy, and I don't believe he's brought me this far to leave me. Never said there wouldn't be trial, never said I wouldn't fall, never said that everything would go the way I wanted to go. But when my back is against the wall and I feel all hope is gone, I just lift my head up to the sky and say, help me to be strong. Oh, I just can't give up now. I've come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me the road would be easy, and I don't believe he's brought me this far to leave me. No, you didn't bring me out here to leave me lonely, even when I can't see clearly. I know that you are with me, so I just can't give up now. I've come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me the road would be easy, and I don't believe he's brought me this far to leave me.
All right, we are back. So for anyone who would like to know the name of that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song, is called You Can't Give Up Now, and it's by 3B4 Joy. The number 3, the letter B, the number 4, Joy. 3B4 Joy, and the name of that song was entitled Can't Give Up Now. That song was just so beautiful. He has not brought me this far to lead me, so we can't give up now. So we have to endure to the end, as the scriptures say. I had to just take a brief break because, my throat was kind of getting dry. So, but let's continue on now. So, let's skip to Exodus now. We're going to go to Exodus chapter 1. Exodus chapter 1, and we see now we know what Pharaoh did. We know what Joseph did, and how through Yah and the interpretation of Pharaoh's dreams that he was able to save the land of Egypt from a famine that would have destroyed them, because he told them to store up twice as much in the first 7 years of plenty, so that when the famine came, they would have enough to cover them. And so, because of what he did, again, he was shown favor. He was made governor all over Egypt. He was second in command. Everyone had to come to him. And if you continue reading that story, even his brothers had to humble, as he told them in his dream. His brothers and his father, they will all come to him and bow down, and that's what happened. But that was such a wonderful story. If you did not see the story of Joseph, I think it's with Ben Kingsley, and that's the best version that I've seen. I mean, I was weeping and weeping and weeping at the end when the brothers came. So if you didn't see that, check it out. You can actually find it on YouTube. And the version that I saw that was the best one, the one where I cried at the end was with Ben Kingsley, and it's a younger looking Joseph. So let's skip now. So now we know what Joseph did, and he was shown favor, and that Pharaoh at that time put Joseph in charge, and then Joseph brought his family all to come and live with him. He forgave his brothers for everything they did, and he told them that it was because it was Yah's will that you sell me into slavery. Because of what they did, they thought what they were doing was for evil, but Yah allowed it so that he would end up saving his brothers and his family from a famine where they could have all been destroyed, okay, because all of the men of the earth had to come to him. So you see how Yah works. Sometimes we go through things and it's for a purpose, but the one who's going through it, we don't understand it at the time because it's uncomfortable. So let's skip now to Exodus chapter 1, and we're going to read verses 1 through 13 and verses 21 through 23, because we see now that a new king, a new Pharaoh arises in Egypt that had not known all of the works that Joseph had did. This new Pharaoh and new king didn't know what Joseph had did. He didn't know his own country's history. He had no idea what was done and how Joseph saved his kingdom. He knows nothing of that. And so let's go now where we will see what's going on. So Exodus chapter 1, we're going to read verses 1 through 13. And these were the names of the sons of Israel. Remember, he brought them, okay? These were the names of the sons of Israel who came into Egypt with Jacob. They each one came in with his house: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 75 souls, Joseph being in Egypt. And Joseph died, and all his brothers, and all that generation. So Joseph had died, his brothers had all died, all that was in that generation died. But again, it says that the sons of Israel were fruitful, okay? And they increased very much, and they multiplied and became very strong. And the land was filled with them. So there were many, okay? They increased. And so a new king, look at this in verse 8, a new king arose over Egypt who had not known Joseph. This king didn't know Joseph, didn't know nothing about what Joseph did, how he saved them. He didn't know anything about that. All he sees is these Israelites are becoming plentiful. It's too many of them. Verse 9. And this king said to his people, behold, the people of the sons of Israel are many and are stronger than we. Come, let us deal craftily towards them, lest they multiply, and it shall be that when war occurs, they will also add to our enemies and will fight against us and will go up from the land, and they will put over them slave masters in order to afflict them with, but he said, and they put on them slave masters in order to afflict them with burden. And he built store cities for Pharaoh, Pithom and Rameses. And as Maz, they afflicted them. So much they multiplied, and so much they spread. And they were afraid before the sons of Israel. And Egypt made the sons of Israel to serve with harshness. So we see here that they're being very harsh with the children or the sons of Israel here in verse 1 through 13. Let's skip to verse 21 and 22. And it was because the midwives feared Yah. See, now he's putting out a decree that I want you to kill all of the sons. Kill all the firstborn sons. Kill all the male children. Kill all the male children. This is what he has decreed. Okay? He says that, if you go back to verse 16, he says, when you midwife the Hebrew women and look on the birth stools, if it is a son, you will kill him. If it's a daughter, it shall live. So when they read down to verse 21, these midwives already knew, and they feared Yah. They knew all about what Joseph had done. This new king knew nothing. And they're like, okay, we've seen how their power was with them when Joseph was here. And we're afraid of doing that. We're not getting ready to kill their children. And so verse 21, it says, And it was because the midwives feared Yah, he made houses for them. And Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, every son that is born, you shall cast him into the river, and you shall keep alive every daughter. So this is what they do right now with Planned Parenthood. The same thing that this king is doing is genocide, population control. It is getting to be too many of them. We need to control them. So let's kill off all the males so they can't procreate. This is the same thing they're doing through Planned Parenthood with the genocide of our people and abortion. Same thing. Nothing is being different. They put them all in our neighborhoods. Let's go down to let's go to Exodus chapter 2. So we read here that they're being afflicted. They're being very harsh with them. And so we know Yah hears the cries of Israel. He hears the cries of Israel, and he remembers the covenant that he made with their forefather Abraham. Who did they make? He made it with Abraham. Now Yah hears them crying, and he remembers the covenant. So let's go to Exodus chapter 2. I'm going to read verses 23 through 25. Exodus 2, 23 through 25. And it happened after many days that the king of Egypt died, and the sons of Israel groaned from the slavery, and they cried, and their cry went up to Yah from the slavery. So Yah is hearing the cry. Their cries reached up to heaven. They reached up to Yah. He's hearing the cries. And it says, and Yah heard their groaning, and Yah remembered his covenant with who? Abraham. And with who? Isaac. And with who? Jacob. We've already gone through this. This is the reason why I took you through this long journey so that you could, by the time we got here, you already familiar with all of this. So he remembered the covenant that he made with Abraham, Isaac, and with Jacob. And Yah saw the sons of Israel, and Yah understood them. He understood. Okay? So, we see now that Yah's going to respond. Okay? He remembers the covenant. Remember, in Deuteronomy chapter 23, verses 21 through 23, whatever comes out of your mouth to do, you must fulfill that. You must do that which you said you were going to do. That's what an oath is. You have to, whatever you promise to do, you must keep your word. Okay? Yah is a covenant-keeping power. Despite what people say, he says he changes not. That's the era of Balaam, that what Yah once said, he changed his mind. Yah didn't change his mind. He hasn't changed his mind. Even with Israel being disobedient today, he still has not changed his mind what he said to our forefather Abraham, and he's still fulfilling that promise. Even today, he's still doing that. So Yah hears the cries of Israel and remembers the covenant that he made with their forefather Abraham. So now we see that he's getting ready to respond. He sets out to keep his promise. Thus, he's showing his love for Israel. Remember, a covenant is not only a promise, an oath, a vow, a deal, a stipulation, but remember, it's also an engagement to be espoused and also marriage, if you remember what we went over earlier. Remember earlier, I also said in the Strong Hebrews that it says to confederate. When I told you that confederate means to be unionized. When a man and a woman enters into a marriage covenant, they become one union. The two flesh shall become one. It's unity. They are in unison. Just as he wants us to abide in him and the Son, that we might abide in each other, that we may be one with him. That's what he wants, for us to be unionized with him, for it to be confederate when he renews the vows, the covenant vows that he made with those same people. He hasn't changed his mind. He's not a man that he's going to lie. Man changes their mind every 5 seconds. Yah does not do that. I'm glad that we don't serve a power that changes his mind every 5 minutes, or we wouldn't be here. So now he's getting ready to show his love. He's getting ready to show his love. So now we're getting ready to see the love story begin. Okay, we're getting ready to see how this covenant begins, this marriage covenant begins. So let's go to Exodus chapter 3. We're going to read verses 1 through 10. And now we're going to see that Yah is getting ready to respond. Okay? And he's going to send Moses. Moses is going to be sent to Pharaoh to do this job so that he can fulfill his covenant promise. So Exodus chapter 3, verses 1 through 10. Exodus 3, 1 through 10. And Moses was tending a flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock behind the wilderness and came to the mount of Most High to Horeb. And the messenger of Yah appeared to him in a flame of fire from the middle of a thorn bush. And he looked, and behold, the thorn bush was burning with fire, and the thorn bush was not being burned up. And Moses said, I will turn aside now and see this great sight, why this thorn bush is not being burnt up. And Yah saw that he turned aside to see him, and Yah called to him from the midst of the thorn bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, I am here. And Yah said, do not come near. Take off your sandals from off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is set apart ground. And he said, I am the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he feared to look upon Yah. And Yah said, surely I have seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt. See, remember, he's calling them my people. He's calling them my people. Remember, with the covenant, he said that he was going to bless them, and he said that you're going to be mine. Remember that? When we read that earlier in the beginning, when I laid the foundation, he said that he already said that they were going to be his. He had already was getting ready. He knew he was going to propose to them, to be engaged to them, and to be committed to them. He's keeping his commitment. Just as a husband, if you marry and you see your wife is crying or someone is harming your wife, you getting ready to go get your wife. Somebody done kidnapped your wife. Somebody done took your wife. You getting ready to go and get her. This is what Yah is getting ready to do. They haven't entered into the marriage part yet, but they already belong to him because it's a promise. They're already engaged. They're already espoused. In the eyes of the Most High, to be espoused and to be engaged is the same thing as marriage. That's why I say you cannot have, when you become engaged, even though you haven't gone through the ceremonial part, you are already off limits. That's your promise. That's your word that you utter out of your mouth. You said you were going to marry them. That's your promise. You gave your word. So from that moment, when you agree, when someone gets down on their knees and asks you to marry them and you agree, you're off limits. So you can't go and lust after somebody else and have an engaged, what is a party's prenup again? I can't remember this.
Bachelor's party?
Bachelor and bachelorette party. I'm going to get it together. You can't have a bachelor and a bachelorette party when you become engaged. You're sinning already. You committing adultery right from the beginning, because in the eyes of the Most High, I already showed you that marriage, that engagement and being espoused and marriage is all the same definition for covenant. He called Mary and Joseph husband and wife before they actually got married. It says that they were espoused. Same thing. They were already confederate. That meaning they were unionized. They were already one, because a promise, according to Yah, and Deuteronomy 23, verses 21 through 23, is a promise, it's a commitment. He says, whatever you utter to pass through your lips, you must fulfill to do it. You can't delay in not doing that. That's why you see people, when people promise to marry somebody, and you ever seen somebody get stood up, and the bride is waiting, and or the husband is waiting, and they don't never show up. They don't show up, and then you wondering, what was that movie, Prina, where I think Shamar Moore was in it. And
I think wasn't it the Wood or the brothers or something?
I think it was the brothers. He was supposed to marry her, and he didn't show up, and she went crazy.
Yeah.
And she was shooting after him and had a knife. She was like, you promised me. She kept saying, you gave me your word. I wish I could have found that scene to play. I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't thinking about that. But she said, you gave me your word. You promised me that you was going to marry me. Like, doesn't that mean anything? He's like, I changed my mind. Well, I'm not ready. You know, you can't do that. That's why you got to be very careful. If you don't know for sure, just say, you know what, let me think about that. Especially when you making a promise to Yah, as we're going to see that Israel entered into that agreement with Yah, and what the Torah say, it can't be changed. He's not going to change his mind. So we see here in Genesis chapter 3 and verse 10 that Yah calls Israel his people, because he's like, they belong to me. They're mine. He's already claiming them. How many of you been in a relationship with someone and they like, oh, that's my woman, oh, that's mine, or that's my man? You don't put claims on them already. You ain't even married to him, but you like, oh, that's mine. This is what Yah is doing right now. He's claiming them. Okay? He remembered the promise, and he's claiming them as his people. So let's go to Exodus chapter 4. Let's go to Exodus chapter 4, and we're going to read verses 19 through 22. Exodus 4, verse 19 through 22. And Yah said to Moses and Midian, go, return to Egypt, for all the men are dead, those seeking your life. So Yah's telling him it's okay for you to go back. I don't took care of them. And Moses took his wife and his sons and made them ride on a donkey. And he returned them to the land of Egypt. And Moses took the staff of Yah in his hand. And Yah said to Moses, as you go to return to Egypt, see all the wonders which I have put in your hand, and do them before Pharaoh, and I will harden his heart, and he will not send the people away. So Yah hardened Pharaoh's heart for one reason, so that he can show how powerful and strong that he was. Because Pharaoh was looked at as this, like, powerful, great God to all these men. And Yah like, I'm going to show you, I'm going to harden his heart, and I'm going to show you how great I am. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. And how I'm going to be able to bring you out. I'm going to show you how much I love you. Look what I do. So let's go to Exodus chapter 4, and we're going to read, let me see, which verse did I leave off? Oh, I left off at verse 21. And Yah said to Moses, as you go to return to Egypt, see all the wonders which I have in your hand, and you shall do them before Pharaoh, and I will harden his heart, and he will not send the people away. And you shall speak to Pharaoh, and you shall say, so says Yah, my son, my firstborn is Israel. Are you looking at this? Yah is calling Israel his son. He's calling us his son. He's like, you go tell Pharaoh, look, let my son go. This is my son. He's mine. They belong to me. He called Israel his son. Now, if you know this history, then you know that Pharaoh refused to let Yah's people go. He wouldn't let them go. So let's go to Exodus chapter 5. I'm going to read verses 1 and 2. And afterward, Moses and Aaron came in and said to Pharaoh, so says Yah, the power of Israel, send away my people that they may have a feast unto me in the wilderness. And Pharaoh said, who is Yah that I should listen to his voice to send away Israel? I do not know Yah, and I also will not send Israel away. So he's like, who in the heck is Yah? I'm great. I'm Pharaoh. I'm a god, because that's what all the Egyptians, the Egyptologists, they always, I'm a god, but they a god with a doctor's appointment. But never mind that. But he's like, who is this Yah? Who is Yah? I don't know no Yah. Why should I listen to his voice? So he's getting ready to find out who Yah is. Okay? So let's go to Exodus chapter 6. I'm going to read verses 1 through 8. Exodus chapter 6, verses 1 through 8. Okay, Exodus 6, 1 through 8. And Yah said to Moses, now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh, for he will send them away with a strong hand. He will drive them out from his land with a strong hand. And Yah spoke to Moses and said to him, I am Yah, and I appeared to Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob as Most High, and my name, Yah, I have not been known to them. So he says, by my name, Yah, I have not been known, because he in the wilderness, he called himself I am, but he said, I have not been known to them by Yah. He said, I have also established my covenant with them to give to them the land of Canaan. So again, he's talking about the covenant that he established. And he says, in the land of their travels in which they traveled in it. And I also have heard the groaning of the sons of Israel, whom the Egyptians are enslaving, and I have remembered my covenant. So here again, he says, I remember the covenant. I remember what I promised to do, and I am going to fulfill that. Let's continue on to verse 8. Therefore, say to the sons of Israel, I am Yah, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of Egypt, and will deliver you from their slavery, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great judgments, and I will take you for myself for a people, and I will be for you a power, and you shall know that I am Yah, your Most High, the one bringing you out from under the burden of Egypt. And I will bring you into the land which I raised my hand to give you to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, and I will give it to you for a possession. I am Yah. And so we know that Moses spoke what Yah said to the sons of Israel, and as they always, even still today, they didn't listen. They didn't want to listen. But Yah, if we look at Exodus 11 and 17, if you look at Exodus 11 and 17, we know that Yah clearly distinguishes a difference between Israel and Egypt. And he tells you that. In Exodus 11 and 7, he says, so that you may know that Yah distinguishes between Egypt and Israel. So all these Egyptologists trying to act like we're them. We're not them people. We're not them people. Yah has made a distinction. He distinguishes. There is a difference between Israel and Egypt. Underline and highlight it. It's right there. Exodus 11, verse 7. Okay? So continuing forward, Pharaoh continues, as we all know, to refuse to let the Israelites go. So Yah is now getting ready to strike all of his firstborn sons in Egypt. He's already used locusts and frogs, and, Pharaoh's not listening. So now he's getting ready to strike all the firstborn sons in Egypt. But he's going to protect Israel from what's to come. So let's go to Exodus chapter 12. And we're going to see a symbolic prophecy that's getting ready to happen here. What's happening here is symbolic of something to come. If we read Exodus 12, and we're going to read verses 12 and 13, we see that Yah commands Israel to put the blood of the lamb on the doorpost. Okay? So Exodus 12, it says, and I will pass through in the land of Egypt in this night, and I will strike every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from man even to livestock. I will execute judgment on all the gods of Egypt. I am Yah. And the blood shall be a sign to you. The blood of the lamb, so that's going to be on the doorpost, should be a sign to you on the house where you are. And I will see the blood. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. This is symbolic of Passover. Reason why we keep Passover, to remember this, but it's also symbolic of our Passover sacrificial lamb, Yahushua HaMashiach, whom now, because of his redemptive shedding of his blood, now the veil was rent and we now can come directly to the Father, we can now be covered, by the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach. His blood covers us, just as the blood of the lamb that was sacrificed here in Egypt covered the Israelites. So when y'all saw the blood, the death angel passed over them, okay? They were protected by the blood, just as we are protected when we're covered by the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach now. So I'm hoping we're seeing this. And the blood shall be assigned to you on the house where you are, and I will see the blood, and I will pass over you. And the plague shall not be on you to destroy when I strike in the land of Egypt. Let's go to Exodus 12, and we're going to go to verse 21 through 24, and then we're going to read verses 27 through 31. So Exodus 12, verses 21 through 24, and then 27 through 31. Verse 24, and Moses called to all the elders of Israel and said to them, draw out and take of the flock for you and for your families, and kill the Passover. And take a bunch of hyssop and dip in the blood in the basin, and touch some of the blood in the basin to the lintel and on the 2 doorposts. And you shall not go out, anyone from the door of his house until morning. And Yah will pass through to strike Egypt. And he will see the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts. And Yah will pass over the door. And he will not allow the destroyer to come in your house to strike you. And you shall observe this word for your ordinance for you and for your sons forever. And it shall be, when you shall come into the land which Yah shall give to you as he has spoken, you shall observe this service. And it shall be, when your sons say to you, what is this service? Meaning, why do we have to do this? What is this about? And you shall say, a sacrifice of a Passover to Yah, who passed over the house of the sons of Israel in Egypt when he struck Egypt. And he delivered our houses, and the people bowed and worshipped. And the sons of Israel went out as Yah did, commanded, and Moses and Aaron, so they did. And it happened at midnight. Yah struck every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, the one sitting on the throne, to the firstborn of the captive who was in the prison house, and every firstborn of animals. And Pharaoh arose by night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one who had died. And he sent a proclamation to Moses and to Aaron by night, and read it. And arise, go out from the midst of my people, both you and the sons of Israel, and go serve Yah according to your word. So here now we see Pharaoh has had enough. He's tired of fighting with Yah. He's saying he's not going to prevail. He's not going to win. Everything he's done has failed. He's like, look, y'all don't have my son. Now he gone. Get out. Goodbye. I'm sending a decree out. Get out of Egypt before anything else happens. Just go and go serve your God. Bye. Go serve him. So Pharaoh lets him go. But did he? So, again, just reiterating, when your sons ask, why do you keep Passover, you should read Exodus chapter 13 and read verse 14. Go to Exodus chapter 13, verse 14. So when your children ask, why do we keep this? This is what you read, Exodus 13 and 14. It shall be, when your sons ask you in the future, saying, what is this? You shall say to him, Yah brought us out from Egypt by a might of his hand from the house of slaves. So your children need to know this. I told my son, I remember when I was going over the commandments all the time, because he said do it when they rise in the morning, when they lay at night, throughout the day. And he was like one day, why do we got to keep saying this? And I read what it told him in Deuteronomy chapter 6, what to say. He tells you, when your sons come to you and say, what's the meaning of this? Why do we have to do this? Tell them what I did. Just like our forefathers and my grandparents and my great-great, they shared all of our history and the stories and the things that happened and what some of our relatives and, and patriarchs in the family may have done for us. We're supposed to do the same thing. We're supposed to do the same thing. So now when we continue reading, we see that Yah delivered, we're almost done, when we see that Yah delivered the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt via the opening of the Red Sea. Pharaoh and his men, when the Israelites tried to leave. Pharaoh and his men came charging after him. So Yah, through Moses, opened up the Red Sea and allowed the children of Israel to pass through. And when Pharaoh and his men try to come after him, Yah closes it up behind them, and they are drowned. So now we are in the wilderness. So before we get into the marriage covenant that takes place in the wilderness between Yah and Israel, I want to read a couple of precepts that truly shows the deep love that Yah had for Israel. Because, you see, before marriage takes place, we already talked about there's an engagement or an espousal period or betrothal period, whatever one you want to use. But before someone, if any of you are married or engaged now, or even if you've been dating someone for a while, you know that before you get engaged, that this person has to prove their love to you. So when you meet someone and you're in love with this person, and this person is whining and dining you, they're taking you out, they're showing you that if you have a need, you go through something, they're going to be there for you, they're going to provide for you, they're going to do everything. This is the time prior to getting engaged that you show this person how much you really love them, and then eventually they're like, you know what, I don't want to live my life without you. I want to be with you every day. I love you so much. And then they buy a ring, and that man gets down on his knees, and he say, look, I have, been with you for 2-3 years. He may even start calling off how much he showed you, how much he loved you. And he showed you, because love is an action. It's not words. Yah showed Israel how much he loved them by him taking them out by a mighty strong hand out of the house of Egypt as slaves. He showed how strong and powerful he was over Pharaoh. And so he didn't leave them there when they were groaning and crying over the harsh treatment, because at first they weren't being mistreated and when they were in Egypt. They were not being mistreated at first. It was only until when the new Pharaoh came were the Israelites being mistreated. A lot of people teach that they was being mistreated the whole time they were in Egypt, and that's a lie. That's not true. They were being treated very well because of Joseph. But when that new Pharaoh and that new king came, he didn't know any of the things that Joseph had done, and he could care less. All he was thinking about is too many of them. They're outnumbering us. They're going to take over. Let's get rid of them. So that man, again, he proved to you and you as well how much you love him, and he proposes. He say, hey, will you be my wife? Can I take your hand in marriage? And if she accepts, now they're engaged. That's their promise. They have made a promise to, become unionized, to become committed. They have a confederate. They have a promise, and that is expected to go through. No one gets engaged for somebody to call it off and say, oh, I changed my mind. So let's read Deuteronomy chapter 7. And this has to happen again some people marry for money or for just, isolated miscellaneous reasons, but for the most part, no one gets engaged to someone unless they have shown you in one way or another how much they love you, okay? And so that has to happen first before you decide, yeah, I'm going to marry you, and they haven't shown you that they would buy you a pack of bubble gum. So let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7, and we're going to read verses, let's see here. I want to read 6 through 8. Deuteronomy chapter 7 and 6 through 8. Okay, it says, for you are a set-apart people to Yah. Yah, your power, has chosen you to be his own treasure out of all the people on the face of the earth. I want to read this again because people are always trying to act like he entered into a covenant relationship. He did not choose everyone. He had a people then, and he still has those same people now. Deuteronomy 7:6, it says, "For you are set apart people to Yah, your Most High. Yah, your Most High, has chosen you to be his own treasure out of all the people on the face of the earth. Yah did not set his love on you or choose you because you were more in number than any people, for you were the fewest of all people, but because Yah loved you, and because he kept the oath, the promise, the covenant, the commitment, the engagement, the espousal, the marriage, whatever you want to call it, all of it means the same. We've already covered that in the beginning of the show. Whatever you uttered out of your mouth, Deuteronomy 21, verses 21 through 23. Never forget that chapter verse when people try to come to you and try to say he changed or it's not the same anymore. Every scripture verse we've been reading over and over and over from one forefather to the next, he has reiterated over and over how he has remembered the covenant that he has made, the oath he has made, the promise that he has made, the vow that he has made. He hasn't changed his mind. I'm still waiting on y'all to change his mind like they teach you in the Christian church. I haven't seen that yet. But he says, "For you are a set-apart people to Yah, your Most High. Yah has chosen you to be his own treasure out of all the people on the face of the earth. Yah did not set his love on you or choose you because you were more in number than any other people, for you were the fewest of all, but because Yah loved you and because he kept the oath which he swore to your fathers." He swore it. "Yah has caused you to go out with a strong hand and redeemed you from the house of slaves, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt." See, he has not changed his mind. Let's read verse 9. "Because of this, know that Yah, your Most High, he is Yah, the faithful one, keeping what? Keeping the covenant and mercy to those who love him." What is love? Keeping his commandments. Over and over and over and over again. I don't know how many ways we can say this. And we haven't seen one yet where it shows that he's going to keep covenant with you and you don't have to do nothing. Where is it at where he don't pay it all? I'm still waiting on that. I don't see that. Where does it say that Jesus paid it all? You don't have to do nothing on your part. God loves everybody. He's an unconditional God. Isn't that what they tell you in the Christian church? I haven't seen that. Yah is a power that has conditions. There's conditions, even in your marriage. Are you going to allow your husband to continue to keep cheating on you? Can he just treat you any kind of way? Will you not hold him to the vows and the oath that he took when he said that he was going to love you and cherish you and provide for you? What is love? 1 John chapter 5, verses 2 and 3. It says, "By this we know that we love the children of Yah, when we love Yah and keep his commandments. For this is the love of Yah, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous." It's not a burden. That's what love is, keeping his commandments. That's what love is. Love is not doing what you want to do and then saying you love Yah. 1 John chapter 2, verses 3, 4, 5, and 6 says, "And by this we know that we have known him, if we keep his commandments. The one saying, 'I have known him,' and not keep his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in that one. But whoever keeps his word, truly in this one the love of Yah has been perfected. By this we know that we are in him. The one claiming to rest in him or to abide in him ought to walk even himself as he walks." So again, because Yah loved you, Deuteronomy 7 and 8, because he kept the oath which he swore to your fathers, Yah has caused you to go out with a strong hand and redeem you from the house of slaves, from the Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Because of this, know that Yah, your power, he is Yah, the faithful one, keeping the covenant and mercy to those who love him. He keeps covenant and mercy to those who love him. He didn't say he just keep it regardless. He didn't say he is an unconditional God. Where is that at? He says to those who love him. His commandments to 1,000 generations. And then in verse 10 says, and repaying to his face those that hate him, to destroy him. He will not delay. He will repay him who hates him to his face. This is, he said he's going to repay you. He said he's not going to delay in repaying you if you show him you hate him to his face. Isn't that the opposite of what we read when we go back to Deuteronomy chapter 21 and read verses 21 through 23? Let's see here. I'm sorry, I'm not Deuteronomy 21, Deuteronomy 23, verses 21 through 23. It says, Deuteronomy 23, verses 21 through 23, it says, but when you shall vow a vow to Yah, your Most High, you shall not delay to perform it, for Yah, your Most High, will certainly require it of you, and it shall be sin. He says you shall not delay to perform it if you make a vow or promise. Same thing that he said here in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 10, when he said that he is not going to delay in repaying you to his face for hating him. He said he's not going to delay. He's not going to do it. He said he will repay him who hates him to his face. He says, you shall keep the commandments and the statutes and the judges which I am commanding you to do them. And it shall be, verse 12, because you hear judgments and keep and do them, even Yah, your Most High, will keep with you the covenant and the mercy which he swore to your forefathers. So you see, there are stipulations. You don't get to treat Yah any kind of way and then think he's going to be protecting you and watching out for you and looking after you. That's why he don't turn his face against us now. That's the exact reason why his face is against us. This is it right here. It shall be, because you hear judgments and keep them and do them, even Yah will keep with you the covenant and the mercy which he swore. See, he's not going to do this if you don't listen. He's not going to do this. You keep reading. He talks about all the things he's going to do. He's going to turn sickness. He said in verse 15, Yah shall turn aside every sickness from you. He will not put on you any of the evil diseases of Egypt, which you have known. He said he will turn the sickness away. So that's why I feel like if you're keeping his commandments, I feel you have the right now through Yahushua HaMashiach to come to him boldly and say, you know what, I have turned my face to you. I keep your commandments. I keep your word. You.
Shatai?
Now this thing want to cut up. Can you hear me, Prina?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I don't know. But in here in Deuteronomy chapter 7 and 8, I was saying in verse 15, I don't know if you heard verse 15 where I said that he will turn aside every sickness from you. Did you hear that?
Yes.
He said,
was expounding on that.
Yeah, that's why I was saying I feel like when I'm not feeling well, I have the right, you know what I'm saying, Prina, to go to him and say, you know what, you said that if we would keep your word and your judgments, your statutes and commandments, that you said in Deuteronomy 7 and 15 that you would turn aside every sickness from us and that you would not put on us any of the evil diseases that's in Egypt. I feel like we can go boldly before him now through Yahushua HaMashiach and ask him to turn aside this sickness from me. I keep your commandments. I keep your judgments, your statutes. I obey you. I turned away from all the wickedness that I learned from our forefathers when we got here. Yah keeps his promise. We should be able to come to him. You said, this is what you said. You said in Deuteronomy 23 verses 21 through 23 that whatever you uttered out of your mouth to do. Remember the covenant you made with my forefather Abraham. Remember the covenant you made with my forefather Isaac and Jacob. Remember it. We can do that. We have a right to do that. He remembered when our forefathers were crying and groaning because of what was happening to them in Egypt. But there are conditions. That's what I'm trying to get our people to see. There is no such thing as unconditional love with Yah. He's not an unconditional power. He's not. I don't care what Pastor Porchop done told you. He is a power who has conditions. If you obey me, then I will do this. If you don't, then these curses are going to come on you. We're not over here in America for no reason. If he was an unconditional power or God, as they say, we would still be over there in Israel. But we not. So that should tell you something right there. Let's continue on because we're wrapping this up because I'm getting to the end of this. So we know about the engagement. Now here comes the marriage, okay? So Yah has already showed them how much he loves them, just as a husband, before he asks that woman that he loves so much, he's shown her how much he loves her. Now he's getting ready to propose. So here it goes. Let's go to Exodus chapter 19, 3 through 11. Exodus 19, 3 through 11. Okay. And I want to add and extend on this. Okay. Exodus 19, 3 through 11. Okay. All right. And you shall prepare the way for yourself. Oh, I'm in Deuteronomy. Sorry. See, this will happen when you have a billion notes on your. Okay. Exodus 19, 3 through 11. And Moses went up to Yah, and Yah called to him from the mountain, saying, You shall say this to the house of Jacob, and tell it to the sons of Israel. You have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to me. And now, if listening, you will listen to my voice. Remember, listen means to obey, because to hear means to obey and to do. So when he's saying, if you listen to my voice, I mean if you will obey, okay, to my voice, and will keep my covenant. You shall be a special treasure. What's the key word? If. Are you looking at if? Underline if, circle if, highlight if, whatever you need to do to make it stand out. Because this is not showing you that he is unconditional. If listening, you will listen to my voice and will keep my covenant, you shall become a treasure, a special treasure to me above all the nations, for all the earth is mine. You shall become a kingdom of priests for me, a set-apart nation. These are the words which you shall speak to the sons of Israel. So now he's courting them. Look, I love them. I want them to be mine. Hey, I done made a promise to Abraham. Go tell them if they obey me, they keep my covenant, keep my commandments, this is what I'm going to do for them. Go take this to them. This is a proposal. Yah's proposing to Israel right here. We're looking at it. He's proposing to them. And so Moses came, verse 7. And he says, these are the words you shall speak to the sons of Israel. So we see right here, he's making it very clear that he's not talking to the Christians. Because everybody want to act like he did away with Israel. He's never been talking to Christians. He's talking to Israel. Verse 7. And Moses came and called the elders of the people, and he put all these words before them which Yah commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, here is it. Moses went and told the people of Israel what Yah has said. Now he's standing before them. What are they saying? That Yah has proposed. This is what they say. We should all read this together wherever you are. If you're listening, let's read 8 together. And all the people answered together and said, all which Yah has spoken, we will do. So we see right here, Israel's, we will do it. That's your I do. Just as a husband and wife, they stand before each other and say, I promise to love you, care for you, provide for you, protect you, and you exchange your vows, your promise, your oath, what you pledge to do, and then she stands and tells you what she pledged to do, love, cherish, to obey her husband, to submit and yield to her husband. She tells her husband, I'm going to submit and yield, I'm going to obey, I'm going to love you too, I'm going to respect you, I'm going to honor you, I'm going to do all these things. And then you both say, I do. Israel said, I do to Yah. Yah proposed. Israel said, I do, right here in Exodus 19, 3-8. And Moses brought back the words of the people to Yah. So he took it back to Yah. There you go. This is the marriage right here. Exodus 19, 3-8. This is the marriage right here. So if we go over to Exodus chapter 20, let's just look at verse 1 and 2. And Yah spoke all these words, saying, I am Yah, your power, who has brought you out from the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. So he's reminding them of how much he loved them, what he did for them again. And now he's going to give them the commandments, okay? They're given the commandments that Israel must obey per their I do. And so now we find that, as you continue reading, that the book of the covenant, or the recording of the vows, okay, because when you get married, there's a recording of the vows or obligations, okay, that the two parties will obey or either uphold or agree to. This can be found in Exodus 20th through the 24th chapter. So, again, the recording of the vows, which are also known as the obligation that the two parties, Israel and Yah, the recording of their vows and their obligation on what they're going to uphold and do or agree on, you can find them when you read Exodus chapter 20 through 24. So you can just write that down, the recording of the vows or the obligations that the two parties, Yah and Israel, agree or to do or obey. You can find them in Exodus 20 through the 24th chapter, those 4 chapters. And so let's go to Exodus chapter 24. And Exodus 24, verses 7, testifies of this book of the covenant vows between Yah and Israel. We go to Exodus chapter 24, and we read verse 7, and it says, and he, this is Moses, Moses took the book of the covenant and read in the ears of the people, and they said, we will do all that Yah has spoken, and we will hear. What does hear mean? Again, everybody listening on a count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Hear means to obey, to do. When he says, hear, O Israel, in Deuteronomy chapter 6, he means obey, O Israel. Do it, O Israel. Keep my commandments. What I have told you that you have to do it. Obey it. That's what it means. So again, here in Exodus 24 and 7, this is basically Moses ratifying the book of the covenant. And again, Israel agrees and says all that Yah has said we will do it. And again, in Hebrew, to hear means to obey. So similar to a marriage covenant vows that you will see today, Yah promises to take care of Israel. Yah promises to provide for Israel, as we see all throughout Scripture. He did. Every time they were in a jam, they were other nations coming after him. Yah, he always fought and went before them and put and gave the other nations into their hands. So again, Yah promised to take care of Israel. He promised to provide for them. He promised to protect them. And we see here that Moses when we were reading in Exodus 24:7, and Moses, he's basically sealing and ratifying this recording of the book of the covenant vows. He's ratifying this, and Moses is also one of the witnesses. So you would kind of look at Moses like the officiator of the wedding when you really look at it, because he's the one that's going in between Yah and Israel. And, you know, they're both saying their vows, and he's taking it back to the other. So Moses is kind of looking at him like he's the one officiating the wedding. So they have a covenant agreement, but there are prenuptial conditions. There are prenuptial conditions to this. In the event that one of them break their agreement, similar to what we do in a real wedding, when we stand before Yah and our family members and our friends, we make an oath, we pledge, we vow and say that we love, cherish, protect, and going to be faithful. So we know that Yah has requirements too. So what were Yah's requirements? Let's go to the precept, go to Deuteronomy chapter 10. Deuteronomy 10 and verses 12 through 13. It says, "And now, Israel, what has Yah, your Most High, required of you, except to fear Yah, your power, to walk in his ways, and to love him, and to serve Yah, your Most High, with all your heart and all your soul, to keep the commandments of Yah, his statutes, which I am commanding you today for your good." And we know that, behold, the earth and the heavens of the heavens, the earth and all of it in it belongs to Yah. So again, what is his requirements? It's telling you right here in Deuteronomy chapter 12 and 13, he says, Israel, what has Yah required of you? Here is a requirement. You need to highlight this, whatever you need to do. This is what Yah requires right here. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verses 12 and 13, especially verse 12, it says, "Now, Israel, what has Yah, your Most High, required of you? Except for you to do what? To fear Yah, your Most High. To fear him, that's 1. To walk in his ways, that's 2. To love him, that's 3. And to serve Yah, your Most High, with all your heart and with all your soul, that's 4. To keep his commandments and his statutes, which I'm commanding you today." This is what Yah requires. You guys need to almost memorize this, print this up. I'm thinking I'm going to get this, I'm going to type this up. I'm going to have this printed up, and I'm going to have this made into like some type of frame, picture, and put this in my house so that I can remember this. He says this is what he requires. Deuteronomy chapter 10, 12, and 13. This is what he requires of us. This is it. These are the terms, which, remember, covenant, when I spoke with you earlier when I was laying down the foundation, that a covenant also means stipulations. Stipulations are the terms and conditions to the covenant. So what were Yah's conditions? What was his terms? What did he require? We just got finished reading it. Deuteronomy 10, verses 12 and 13. So the marriage covenant was cut, and the vows were ratified with blood, because it has to be done with blood. And we go to Exodus 24, verse 8. We see that Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, "Behold, the blood of the covenant which Yah has cut with you concerning these words." So Moses cut and he ratified, and the vows were ratified with the blood. If you look at Exodus 24 and 8, Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, "Behold, the blood of the covenant which Yah has cut with you concerning these words." So Yah promised Israel over and over and over, because we're at the end. Prina, you can come in. If. That's all we have seen throughout today. If. If you would obey him, if you would keep his commandments, then he said you will be a special treasure to him above all the people on the face of the earth. But as we will continue reading next week, I'm going to read. I got two more scriptural verses to read. But Israel repeatedly, they didn't keep it. We all know that Israel repeatedly they repeatedly were unfaithful. They repeatedly committed adultery, and even still to this day, they're committing more whoredom than ever. They have no remorse for Yah and the covenant that our forefathers made. They don't care. In fact, Israel, if we go back, I'm not going to go back now, but you know the story about the golden calf. Well, that happened right after the marriage. Israel, did you realize that, Prina? That Israel,
yes,
for Israel was whoring. They were whoring and committing adultery against Yah right after the wedding vows.
Yeah,
right after the wedding, they couldn't even.
Couldn't wait for Moses to come down with the law.
Yeah, he didn't even come down with the marriage license. He didn't even come down with the marriage license. No,
he didn't come down with nothing.
Because you know how when you get married, then they have to go off and you have to sign it, you and your husband. Look, the ink didn't even dry.
No.
And they were already committing adultery.
And Aaron lied and said that they made him do it.
Like these people, I'm like, oh, how you going to blame it? I would like to know if anyone, listen, I'm going to open up the line. Press *6 on your phone. I would like feedback from anyone who heard today's lesson on the covenant. I know, we've taught the covenant before. And if anybody, I'm going to read these 2 chapters, but for anybody listening, if you could, I would appreciate it. *6 on your phone and let me know if you learned anything new, anything in addition to what you already knew about the covenant. Do you have a better understanding or feeling that you can explain, dissecting this covenant, how it came to be? Because they weren't Israel at first. But they were down there whoring before the ink even dried on them. He didn't even come down with it yet. And by the time he get down there, they had already committed adultery right after the wedding. Like, I'm thinking at the wedding, they didn't even have a wedding reception. And they had already committed adultery. Deuteronomy, you can turn quickly to Deuteronomy chapter 26. Priya, you still in?
I'm in, sis.
Okay, Deuteronomy chapter 26. 6 through 9, it says, and the Egyptians dealt ill with us and afflicted us and put hard labor on us, and we cried to Yah, the Most High of our fathers, and Yah heard our voice. He saw our afflictions and our labors and our oppressions, and Yah brought us out from Egypt with a mighty hand and with an arm stretched out, and by great terribleness and signs and with wonders. So we see that Yah, they realized, what Yah did. They realized, they said he brought us out to a place and a land flowing with milk and honey. So they know what he did. They were there. They were the ones that passed through the sea. That's why I couldn't understand what they were down there doing, talking about this be the God that brought us out of Egypt. I think I would have had to line them up and slap them all.
Yes. No, they would have been smite on the spot.
I just didn't get it. I mean, and then if you read
that's why they had to drink the gold.
Yeah, that's why they had to drink it, because he be turning into powder, because y'all was like, oh, I'm getting ready to wipe them off. Look, Moses was like, please, because he was like, I'm done. Like, I ain't even took off my wedding garment, and they down there whoring.
Yes.
Like, they whoring with somebody at the ceremony. But
yes, it even got to the point where, remember when Moses was like, who gonna serve Yah and choose this day, and wiped, was it, I think it was Joshua.
Let me read this right quick. Deuteronomy chapter 26, verses 6 through 9. Let me see. 16 through 19, I'm sorry. Today, Yah, your Most High, commands you to do these statutes and judgments. You shall be careful to do them with all your heart and with all your soul. You have today declared Yah to be your power, to walk in his ways and to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments, to pay attention to his voice. And Yah has declared you today. He has declared you today to be his people, a special treasure as he has spoken to you, and to keep all his commandments. You see, the stipulations keep coming. It's never you can be my people and then do what you want. Verse 19, he will make you high above all nations that he has made in praise and in name and in glory and you may be a set-apart people to Yah, your Most High, as He has spoken. But again, there were stipulations. Yah, when we're looking at this, we see that Yah promises.
Yeah.
He keeps reiterating to Israel, if they obey Him and if they keep His commandments, then this, is going to happen. And when you look over at Deuteronomy chapter 27, verses 8 through 10, it says, "You shall write on the stones all the words of the Torah very plainly." And Moses and the priests, the Levites, spoke to all Israel, saying, "Keep silence and hear, O Israel." Hear means to what? Obey. "Hear, O Israel, today it says, today you have become the people of Yah, your Most High. Then what? Therefore you shall obey the voice of Yah and do His commandments and His statutes, which I am commanding you today." So nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. It's still the same. And so next week, when we begin this, we know that they didn't keep it. And we're going to go into the divorce. Part 2 is going to be the divorce. Prina, we know that Yah's covenant, it will be a covenant, and it contains 3 things. It contains not 3 things, but His covenant contained 3 promises. One was a land. He promised a land to them. He promised that they will be a people, and He promised blessings to them. And so all the other covenants that you see in the scriptures is built upon the first covenant that He made with Abraham. But see, Yah's covenant with Abraham, and I want to make this clear, Yah's covenant with Abraham is not dependent on Israel's obedience, because remember, they had not come to be. This is something I want to say. Individual persons can miss the blessings by being disobedient. But Yah, and we've already read this in Deuteronomy chapter 23, verses 21 to 23, that Yah, He is a covenant-keeping power. Yah continues His covenant that He made with Abraham. He is not going to let no stiff-necked Hebrews or stiff-necked Israelites that don't want to back. You either are going to obey or die. Like Yeshua said, He said, you're either going to repent or you're going to likewise perish. There is, that's the only choice you got. Obey me or die. That's it. If you choose not to obey, you are choosing death. He said, I set before you life and death. Choose life so that you and your descendants may live. So individual people can miss the blessing by being disobedient. And when I say that, I mean individual people from Israel and anyone else that's outside of the covenant. I mean, that's not Israel, non-Israelite strangers who take hold to the covenant. They can be saved. But right now I'm just dealing with Israel because they're the ones that made this covenant. I'm not talking about anybody else, and this is not about anybody else being saved. I'm talking about Israel only right now. Individual Israelites can miss the blessing. They can miss being blessed because of their disobedience. Yeah. But Yah is going to continue His covenant that He made with Abraham. His covenant with Abraham was passed on through to Isaac, and then through Isaac and through to Jacob, and then through Jacob, whose name was later changed to Israel, and through Israel, the 12 tribes. The majority of Israel is not going. We already know that. He's already said it. Yeah. Only a remnant is going to be saved. So just because you Israel, stop being haughty and prideful and think you can slide in the kingdom just because you got your head wrapped up tight and your tassels dragging around the corner and your beard is to the floor. Yah doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about any of your Ninja Turtle outfits. He doesn't care how much Hebrew you speak. He doesn't care about any of that. He don't care about none of that. The only thing he's going to care about is if you are keeping these commandments. What he told you, all he care about, what he said that he requires from you. What we just got finished reading, what he requires. That's all he cares about. He doesn't care about anything else. So the covenant that he made with Abraham is not going to be broken because of some stiff-necked Israelites. It's not his covenant he made with Abraham. He made it with him alone and then his descendants. He's not breaking his covenant with Abraham, and it's not going to be dependent on the Israelites that choose not to obey. The Israelites that choose not to obey, they're just going to die, and that's just going to be it. They're not going to make it in the kingdom, period. But his covenant is still going to go. He can't break his covenant because he's Yah. He and his word is one. Whatever and that's why I've been hammering so hard the same two scriptural verses in Deuteronomy chapter 23, verses 21 through 23, because I need people to understand that what a covenant is, how Yah views the covenant, how he's not changing his mind. Yeah. He's not. He said, when you shall vow a vow to Yah, you shall not delay to perform it, for Yah, your Most High, will certainly require it of you. It shall be sin to you. But if you shall forbear the vow, meaning you don't keep it, it shall not be sin. But whatever he said has gone out from your lips, he said you shall keep it and you shall do it according to whatever you vow. He said you should do whatever came out of your mouth, whatever you spoke to do. You got to do it. He and his word are one. He can't lie. He can't break his own word. So because Israel, the majority of Israel is being stiff-necked, you think Yah is getting ready to break his own Torah? Yeah. He's not getting ready to break his own Torah. He's not going to do it. This is one of the greatest love stories that we went over today in the history of the world. Yes. Yah's love for Israel. But unfortunately, the love only goes one way. Yeah. It's one way. Yah loves Israel, but Israel don't love Yah. I had to come to this understanding. The majority of Israel, no matter what garments they got on, how much Hebrew they speak, I don't care. I don't get caught up in that. The majority of Israel do not love Yah. They don't love him.
No, and, I put that in one of your posts. Like, just all the stuff that he's done, and all they care about is the appearance and speech. Mm-hmm. When they don't even realize the true inheritance of being a royal priesthood, that they really have an inheritance of reigning and ruling with the Mashiach when he comes. I mean, what other nation of people was promised that? None but Israel, and yet we just want most the Hebrews that I know, all they want to walk around is shaloming, putting burdens and grievous things on the people, teaching lies, and walk with Ninja Turtle costumes and they alphabet organizations, but yet they don't even walk circumspectly and don't love their brothers and sisters, and it's just. It just grieves me, and how much Yah loves us so. Yes. And he's still keeping his promise, and that's why you say it's only a remnant, and that's it. And so you just got to come to the conclusion, you do what you have to do to warn your brothers and sisters. But if they don't want it, you dust the dust off your feet and keep it moving. Don't throw your pearls before swine.
He ain't going because it's nothing you're going to be able to do. I wanted to read Psalms 105 right quick. Psalms 105. Verses 7 through 11. This is the last scripture. He is Yah, our power. His judgments are in all the earth. He has remembered his covenant forever, the word he commanded to 1,000 generations. When he cut with Abraham his oath to Isaac, he confirmed it with Jacob for a statute, and to Israel for a perpetual covenant, saying to you, I will give the land of Canaan, the portion of your inheritance. So, when I looked at it, I'm like, well, I have to read it. This is Psalms 105, 7 through 11. He remembered his covenant. He said to 1,000 generations. Then it goes through everything that I took you through. This is like an itemized, quick version of the long story that we went through. He cut it with Abraham. We went through that. And then his oath to Isaac, we went through that. He confirmed it with Jacob for a statute. We went through that. And to Israel for a perpetual covenant. We went through that. Mm-hmm. This is Psalms 107. Psalms 105, 7 through 11.
Yeah.
You know, it's unfortunate that it's one-sided. It's a love story, but Yah loves Israel. He still loves them, and he's not going to break the covenant. That's why I said the covenant he made with Abraham is not determined or indicative of what Israel obedience, because he's not going to break his covenant because some of the Hebrews want to be stiff-necked.
Mm-hmm.
So next week we're going to continue with part 2, and we're going to go into those curses that fell on the covenant people, because our people need to see that we are those same people. We need to see the reason why we're suffering the way that we're suffering. And so we're going to dig deep next week. So next week, part 2 of our 3-part series, The Bible is Our History. Part 2 is entitled The Divorce of the Covenant People of Yah. And then we will close out with part 3, our last series, with the remarriage of the covenant. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, sis.
Okay. So your thoughts on today's lesson, and anything that you got new out of today's lesson that you didn't get that stood out?
I just, you know what, I got out, how you reiterated the vows, because that is more prevalent to me, and I think I fall short on that. You know what I'm saying? Because yes, I know that it's a sin when you don't keep your vow, but when you kept reiterating, and we just have to start being mindful of the things that we say and the things that we utter out of our mouth, because it shows how Yah held Israel accountable for the words that they uttered out of their mouth, because this is why we are in the condition we in today.
He still holds
and he has repaid us, and he did not delay, because he kept telling us and over again. And so he said, okay, you don't hear me, so I'm going to show you better than I can tell you. And so that's why we came on ships, and that's why we going through all the heartache and the crying and all these million-man march that's not going to work.
No, none of it.
You know, and so it really, really, made me re-examine myself, because over 3 years ago I made a promise to Yah about my son. And when he died, and Yah spared him. And so it just brought back to me to be more on him and what I promised him. I'm sorry for crying.
No, go ahead. This is real.
And so I'm just being transparent here, because I don't want nobody to think that we are not without sin, or we don't fall short. And so I have to revisit the vow that I made to him and make sure that I am not in sin with him, and to repent and to make sure that I hold fast to what I promised him.
Yeah.
And so that's the grieving that when you taught this lesson, I mean, I knew it, because I've been praying this to get back on track with him, with my son. And it just that, because I had even did a previous lesson when I first said I was going to do it, and it just brought back that scripture. And so that stood out more so than anything, because I know the love story that Yah had for us, because we talked about it so much. But that, out of anything, Israel need to stop and really pay attention to the vow, because we are not exempt, whether you were there when he made it with the forefathers or not. He said it's to all his generational seed. And so you can't renege on this vow. So it's only two ways that you're going to get out of this vow: death,
yeah,
you know, or you're going to be remarried to him. That's it. You're going to keep it or you're not.
Yeah.
And so death is the only way you're going to be released out of it.
Get yourself together or you'll die.
Death is it. Okay? Death do you part. You got that? You free from your husband or your wife, death do you part. That's what you're going to do. You're going to be deaf and then departed in the lake.
And unfortunately, Israel, I mean, it's not unfortunate. Don't we say unfortunately, but, I mean, Israel, we can't get out of it. Our forefathers made that covenant, so we are suffering the repercussions of our fathers' transgression and unwillingness to obey what they agreed, and they falter in keeping the covenant. So we're over here not because we did anything. We only did what we learned. We didn't know that we were over here because of that. You know what I'm saying? So we are just doing what we were taught. But ultimately, it lies in our forefathers' hands because they were there. You know, they knew and they didn't obey. And so now we're suffering the consequences. We're trying to get back on track with the Father Yah so that we can be walking right before him. And, this lesson make me think, let me go back and see, have I made any vows?
Yes, girl, because that's what, but it just, that stood out. But it was really a beautiful illustration of Yah's love, and I loved how you went from Abraham and how Abram, and then changing his name and his wife's name, to Abraham and Sarah, and the significance of how, yes, Ishmael's may be Hebrew as well as Israelite, but the promise went to Israel, and so just that lineage piece I think is very important so that our brothers and sisters can stop, it's spiritual Israel and all this other crazy crap that, like as you say, Pastor Pork Chop teaching. And they throwing away their heritage. Then they don't really realize the blessing. They always holler, I'm blessed and highly favored, but you will be really blessed and highly favored if you really, truly knew who you are and how the Most High is commanded only, or called to himself only one nation of people that he chose out of. Just know this: he chose out of all the nations, all the people of the world, he only chose one, and that's Israel.
And he said he ain't never gonna break his covenant with us.
Vow with
never.
Them. Never.
He said, I will never break my covenant with Israel. Never.
Yes.
So we need to understand that scripture verse right there lines up with Deuteronomy.
Yes.
Chapter 23, verses 21 to 23. He said, I will never break my covenant. I think that's in Judges. He said, I'm never going to break my covenant with you. I'm never going to break it. So, for people
and then just also go to Exodus 20. I think it was it one of them when he said he's not going to even delay.
Yeah,
and so that's why we see that he didn't delay with us.
No, he hasn't.
And he didn't delay with the lost tribes either. He
divorced them, and so we're going to go into that next week.
Yes.
With the divorce of the covenant people, and strictly stick with the divorce, the curses and the divorce, and then we're going to wrap it up with the remarriage, and hopefully our people, but especially with part 2, they should really see. But it's pivotal to understand part 1, because if they don't understand part 1, the covenant, they don't see the significance of keeping this Torah.
That's true.
We need to, once they see the significance of the covenant and how Yah doesn't change his mind, then when we introduce part 2 next week, they will see if we the people, we can't get out of it. We got to do this. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's my goal. What stood out to me before we get out of here is when Jacob was wrestling.
Yes.
Angel, and he wrestled, and his name was changed to Israel because he wrestled and he prevailed. And what came to my mind was Ephesians 6.
When you brought that, sis, I'm glad you mentioned that because that was one of the pivotal parts too for me.
That stood out there. We wrestle not with flesh and blood. And that kind of brought me back because we are Israel. So as Israel, our forefather Jacob, Israel wrestled with that which was not of flesh and blood, and he prevailed. His name was changed. So will we, and so we are doing that same thing today. We're wrestling with that which is not of flesh and blood, but we have to prevail. So we still have to endure. Do you see what I'm saying? And I thought that was a big thing. That was something.
Oh yes, that really stood out too. Yes, and as well. I just really wanted to let the listeners know that about the most profound thing that stood out was the vow. But yes, that was another profound that you put in the lesson too today.
Well, so we're gonna go ahead and just end this out here. I'm just gonna say quickly, may y'all bless, because we we're at 6:09, so we didn't start on time today. We started around 2:30 today because my phone was cutting up again. So yeah, we have to get a new phone. But for anyone wanting to know the name of that song. That was by 3B4 Joy, and that was Can't Give Up Now. That was the name of that song. So we're going to end with may Yah bless and keep thee. May he make his face shine upon thee and be gracious to thee. May he lift up his countenance upon thee and give you peace. Yah willing, we will be back next week with part 2, which is entitled The Divorce of the Covenant People of Yah. With that being said, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Ooh.